Do it. Did our little head bob? Isn't that how we do it?
We're too sane right now. We need like a few more hours of no sleep.
We haven't even started getting punchy here. And we're on with what's going to be probably a solid 2.5 to 3 hours of NFL draft coverage. John Zannis, joined by our Patriots insider Tayler Kyles, and SI.com's Mike Kadlick, also Patriots contributor and co-host of Patriots Daily on the CLNS Media Network. A lot going on, and again, this is Draft Central coverage, kind of a subsidiary of of Patriots Daily. Here on the CLNS Media Network. We're going to have you covered all the way through, just to give you a little rundown of what's going on. We're going to take you all the way through to the start of the draft and all the way through to the Patriots pick. Should they pick at 4? Should they trade? On and on we go, and we hang and we hang and we hang until they make a pick. We'll analyze it. These guys are going to take a break, listen to Mike Vrabel address the media, and then we will jump back on after that to wrap up the day. Or should the Patriots trade back into the draft, we will hop right back on. If there's any movement, any news, we're going to do that. And that's going to be the case throughout the weekend as we do it. We'll lead you up to their picks. We'll get you through the picks. We'll take a little break. We'll jump back on when they're about to pick again, and we'll tell you everything we know. And Tayler Kyles is the guy who knows the most, maybe of anybody. So I'll start with you, Tayler. And again, there's a lot of moving parts here, and there's different things going on that we're hearing and the buzz. But one thing that seems to be kind of trending and has been trending in this direction for a while is the idea that Will Campbell is chalk, that the Pats are set on their pick. And I do think finally, after years of infighting and me yelling with Evan Lazar and even Tayler about safeties and linebackers and defense wins too, and stop being obsessed, I feel like the last 2 years, everybody associated with the Patriots, fans and media alike, have understood the mission. Last year it was get your quarterback and maybe some receiver help. They tried to address both, some successfully, some not. This year it's find a freaking left tackle or two, or just tackles, linemen who can protect the franchise. And so this is, I think, where we're at in terms of the mission. It's just, there might be more than one way to go about getting this done. So Tayler, where are your thoughts as you've kind of been analyzing tape, looking at everything, listening to the buzz, talking to people? Where are you at right now?
I have reached acceptance that Will Campbell is going to be a Patriot in a couple hours' time. And I've like, the amount of coping I've been doing has been nuts. I literally had Liz watch the Kay Adams Will Campbell interview and be like, what do you think of the vibe? Because I just wanted to hear from her, like, I really like him because he's obviously very, very likable. And he is a good player. And I hate that the narrative has kind of gone from like, how good of a left tackle can he be to can he play left tackle? Because I think that's a bit of a reach, right? He did play left tackle in the SEC. He was a unanimous a consensus All-American. Clearly he can hang with some of the better competition, but the reality is, and everyone says, oh, the arm length doesn't matter that much. One, it does. Two, it's not just the arm length with Will Campbell. It's also the fact that he's a very narrow guy. Like, his wingspan,
really narrow.
Only left tackle, if he has success, he will be the only left tackle like ever who's as narrow as he is to reach like a Pro Bowl or whatever if he were to reach that level, which is why people say, well, if you kick him inside, you don't have to worry about those wide speed rushers, those guys who can really get ahead of steam and put you in compromising positions where your length and narrowness are exposed. I tried to get Ash and Genty, out there into the universe, see if it threw me anything back. I didn't get nothing.
I'll give you a little love there, and I'll give you a little love because I got a love-hate Genty situation there.
You'll meet in the middle between me and Tayler on Genty then.
Well, it's not even that. I'm all over the map on it because I know what you're talking about, Tayler. And I think one of the reasons why you could talk yourself into a guy like Genty is because it's exciting. Even it's the sports car. You're in Vermont and you need a pickup truck, or but you buy a Ferrari and you're like, I don't know, it's pretty cool though, and it's fast, but like it's not what I need. Like, Genty is such a luxury pick, and it's a shame, right? Because if they had, a little bit more infrastructure, is the word that's been thrown around a little bit lately, that would be okay. It doesn't seem to be okay given the needs that they have here or how many that they have. But yeah, go ahead.
I want to try to sell you though, because I got Mike on my side a little bit here.
A little bit.
When the light bulb went off for me was when we were talking to the Athletics' Dane Brugler, obviously does a phenomenal job, one of the premier draft analysts. And he mentioned that you don't really pick positions when you're in the top 5 or that early in the draft. You pick players. So that kind of got my head going. I'm thinking like Will Campbell it just doesn't sit right. This is a rare position to be in the draft. And you like that guy where it's like, this guy is going to be a bona fide stud at the position you're drafting him at. Ashton Jeanty, the way I kind of thought of it was like he's getting comped to LaDainian Tomlinson. Would you rather have LaDainian Tomlinson or like prime Taylor Decker / Jeff or who is it? Brandon Scherf. Like that's how I was thinking about it. Plus, I know that left tackle is a glaring hole. We all know that. But like Mike Onwenu and Morgan Moses is a very good run blocking duo. Garrett Bradbury, a little bit boomer bust, but still, he's at least an average run blocker. And Landon Robinson is a stud as a run blocker. It's really the pass protection where he needs to be more stable. So like, I didn't really agree with the whole who is he going to run behind, because like we know Mike Onwenu's dominant. Morgan Moses, we know what he is. Even Kate Wallace is good as a run blocker. So I didn't think it was like Drake where you're kind of throwing him to the wolves and just being like, we had to get you. I'm sorry. You're just going to have to survive for a year. Like I think Jeanty would have a better supporting cast around him. But at the same time, and this is why I've kind of backed off and just accepted, if the Patriots don't think there's another starting left tackle outside of their range, that's the bottom line, right? You don't pass on quarterbacks and you don't pass on left tackles. And they're just in a spot where even if Will Campbell isn't the ideal left tackle, he is better than anything that they currently have or probably could have on the market. So I don't think it's as lost a cause with Jeanty as a lot of people do, but I also understand what the reality is in that, it's just tough when there's so few true left tackles in this draft, at least healthy ones.
So the Jeanty saga that has become the Patriots daily back and forth the last really week, ever since we talked to Dane, like you mentioned, and you started getting pilled. And a friend of the show, Andrew De Silva, you saw his screenshot yesterday, Taylor, where Dane's talking to it. Taylor's like, "Oh my god," and I literally am sitting there with my eyes closed, like, why are we talking running backs at 4? And it goes back to ultimately my hate, if you will, for drafting running backs so early. It all comes down to Saquon Barkley, who is the premier, if not one of the premier running backs in the NFL, who was great, is still great, was on a shit team with shit players, and they turned in shit results. And then he goes to Philly on a great roster and ends up winning a Super Bowl. And everyone's like, see, you need running backs. It's like, no, you need a great team. Then a running back is drag and drop. But what started to pull me into Jeanty a little bit more was what we talked about earlier in the week, Taylor, is that the Giants didn't have a quarterback. The Patriots do. And so you can drag and drop a running back next to a quarterback in Drake May who looks like, okay, I can actually play in this league and we can be a dynamic duo, if you will, in the backfield. And yes, you still need to add your left tackle, your wide receivers. Like that's still a glaring need. But that's why I started to warm up a little bit more to Jeanty. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen here, with the trade-up rumors, which we'll get to, or the fact that it feels like Will Campbell is just going to be the pick anyway. But if it did happen, I don't think I would be as mad tonight as I would have been if it happened before our show on Monday when we kind of
you'll be a little excited. We're going to play, as we said, this got a lot of play here. This clip from Dane Brugler from the Athletic, right? From the Athletic, he was on with Mike and Taylor. Let's read Mike's expression while Dane's kind of going through his little Jeanty, Jeanty suggestion.
When you're drafting top 15, top 20, you don't draft positions, you draft players. Yeah. You don't target a certain position. You go with the best players available because we know that there's so much attrition in football in the NFL. You add the player that's going to best impact your roster. Now, sometimes that lines up exactly with your needs. And so you're thinking about the Patriots at 4. Let's take Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter out of the conversation. Let's say they go 2 and 3 in whatever order. I do think a case should be made for Ashton Jeanty, a player like that who just can impact your roster in such a profound way. I think something that doesn't get talked nearly enough with Jeanty is how much he impacts the passing game. They didn't use him as much this year catching the football out of the backfield. It was mostly just what he could do with his legs, but teams compare him to kind of like a LaDainian Tomlinson with what he does as a pass catcher. And so it's like, all right, if I'm adding that type of talent, dropping that into this offense, that's something we need to talk about.
All our facial expressions are polar opposite whenever he starts. He says LT, I'm like, oh, really? And Taylor's like, let's go. But
yeah, well, getting Tayler excited on draft day is not a difficult task. So, and again, that was a couple of weeks ago, or 10 days or so ago. But I understand the thinking behind it, and that's the thing is, it's like it's a 3-player draft, unless you want to include Genty, who makes it a 4-player draft. It's just such a luxury position, and teams that are drafting that high, taking something like that when you have so many other needs is a mess. But also the whole, you're not supposed to draft for need, but there's no way the Patriots aren't drafting for need here. It's just, how do you maximize value for the needs that you have? Like, I'll ask this question. Can you come out of this first round without, I guess Carter is the other scenario, but can you come out of this first round without a lineman or Travis Hunter? Like, how is that going to, or a lineman or a receiver or both, or 2 of 1? Like, it's almost impossible. If you go back into round 2 looking for your tackle, or trying to trade up into round 1 and grab whatever's left, you're in trouble, because now you're overpaying for need. So it's a really sticky position the Patriots are in, and I know people are going to hate Gerard Mayo and the entire coaching staff for putting this in position, giving them the number 4 pick in a 3-player draft. So that's interesting. The Genty thing is super interesting too. If the Bears are moving up and the Jaguars are now being rumored to take him, well, the only realistic landing spot to move up there is 4. But if you fall all the way to, what is it, the Bears at 12? 10, that could take you out of the top tackle market. And you might have to keep trading down, and who knows what happens there. And you could end up with even less value later. So it's a little dance that you're going to do. The biggest wild card in this whole draft, though, is not the Genty thing. That's the thing that's been moving lately. That's kind of changed how we think about things. It's where's Shedeur Sanders going to go? This is, we've seen guys slide, and we've seen it as recently as Will Levis, who was in some mocks going 3, and he fell to round 2. So it's not unheard of. But I've never seen such a wild swing and zero consensus on a player as I can remember with Shedeur Sanders. It's insane how all over the map this is. And there's still a piece of me, guys, that thinks
there's still a chance
that some owner is stepping in and saying, nah, man, you're taking a quarterback. And that's it. And I still see it as possible, but I don't know. The betting line, Vegas doesn't think so. Well, what do you guys think? How do you see? Why is he so all over the place, and where do you see him going?
I can start on Shedeur first, just with the fact that it does still feel like there is a chance that he goes number 3 to the Giants. And I was listening into some of the national insiders this morning, just because I remember Belichick told us this, and Barth reiterated this. I think it was on Twitter, earlier, where the real information doesn't necessarily start coming out until like 12 hours before the draft. It's kind of leaks and nonsense and throwing people off the scent for a long time. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, once we get near or close to draft time, this is where things get serious, where now you're hearing the Genty stuff and even the betting markets move. And you got to be careful with the betting markets, obviously. But, like with Shedeur, I heard Ian Rappaport today say that there's still a chance that he goes 3rd overall. And that's, anything these guys say, you have to take it as informed. And so I don't think New York is necessarily, as we sit here less than 2 hours from draft time, I don't think the Giants are sold on what they're going to do at 3. And realistically, most organizations should be. But John, you mentioned the ownership part of this. And does John Mara come in and say, you know what? No. Or is he still kind of poking the bear and talking to Dayball and talking to Shane and saying, no, I still want us to get this guy. If they keep hearing information where, Shedeur could go 21 to the Steelers, or he could go 9, call it, to the Saints, which doesn't seem likely, but again, information's information. So long story short, I do think that there is a chance that ultimately the Giants either take him at 3 or another team gets aggressive and could try and jump in maybe to where the Patriots are at 4 to try and jump a team like the Saints or what have you. So yeah, it's on one hand though, John, the volatility of it's kind of wild because, like Albert Breer at Sports Illustrated says that he only has 1 quarterback in the entire first round. He put out a mock draft this morning for us, and he has Cam Ward 1 and nobody else throughout the back end. So some have Milroe, Dart, Shedeur, and Cam Ward, and others have only one with Cam Ward. So it's a strange quarterback class. And the one thing I'll add before we kick it to Tayler is the last time we had a quarterback class this strange, only one went in the first round. It was the year with Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, and who was the kid from Liberty, who was drafted by the Titans?
Malik Khan. No,
Malik
Willis.
And those three guys, it felt like could all be fringe first round picks to even top 10 picks at one point. And Pickett slid all the way to 20, and the other two went in rounds 2 and 3. So that tells me I don't know if we're going to see Shedeur, but crazier things have happened, and it definitely impacts the Patriots at pick number 3.
Yeah. What do you think, Tayler? And have you looked at him enough to get, what's your take? Are you also not sure he's a first round pick?
To be totally honest, no, I've stayed far away. I had plenty of offensive tackle stuff I had to watch. I'm like, I don't want to get in the middle of this. I did quarterback discourse is just not fun. It gets so heated. But from what I have seen, there are some times where you can just see a player's physical ability. And I remember when I was at Q's, they would say certain players you can watch in 10 plays and you're like, yeah, this is a good player. Yeah, I don't really need to watch a whole lot more. In Shedeur, you can definitely see there's a level of calmness in the pocket, the processing. He is a prototypical pocket quarterback. He's learned from Tom Brady, and I think you can see that in some parts of his game. The thing is, and I heard this and I thought it made a lot of sense just based on some of the mistakes I've seen or some of the lowlights, is he plays like Jordan Love, but he doesn't have Jordan Love's athleticism. So he'll go out of the back of the pocket, and rather than stepping up, he'll try to kind of set guys up to either step up sometimes or just try to go out that way. And with Drake, that's one thing I mentioned with him last year. I love that he very rarely tried to do that. One of the only times he did was that strip sack against the Dolphins, where it's whoa, okay, please don't ever do that again, because giving you all this praise, you can't live like that. And there are some things in Shedeur's game that I don't think he's going to iron out in a year. I think they're going to take some time. That's where, if I'm the Giants coaching staff, I'm saying we have Russ. We can get by for a year, right? We can figure this out and we don't need to reach for the quarterback. We can get a Jackson Dart later on if we need to, whatever. And Jackson Dart at least gives you more physical tools. He's a legitimate runner. He's got a better arm. I don't think he's maybe where Shedeur is right now. I don't think he's a better quarterback, but there's a higher upside where you could at least justify saying, I'm not doing that with Shedeur. I'm not playing that game. But if I'm ownership, I'm saying, when's the last time an edge rusher made a team, made you a playoff team when you weren't, right? How much of a difference does the edge rusher make when you don't have a quarterback? So I could see it going either one of those ways. We know that ownership, Mar's done it long enough. You'd like to think that he wouldn't kind of put his hands on it that aggressively and just decide, what, screw what you guys think. I'm taking over this pick. But it's also what Kraft told us last year, where it's yeah, I'm the steward of this franchise. I'm going to do what I think is best. I still am not allowing myself to think that Abdul Carter, anybody slips. I think that's great, because at that point, you still get Will Campbell, but maybe you can get that trade partner and you get a ton of capital, because it's not just maybe the Raiders won up a few picks for a tackle or a Genty. It's no, this is a blue chip edge rusher at a premium position. You're going to have to pay me a premium price. That's the best case scenario. I just don't necessarily see it happening.
I look at and Tayler, you mentioned the edge rusher versus quarterback thing, and I think I heard Orlovsky say it too the other day, where it's you go get a quarterback to win a Super Bowl. You don't go get an edge rusher to win a Super Bowl, especially again, it's obviously super important. It's one of the premier positions on the field, but when you're the New York Giants and you're Joe Shane and you're Brian Daboll and you're trying to save your job, sometimes you just have to be bold and just say, screw it, I'm going to take the quarterback. And if it works and he shines like a Jaden Daniels did last year, maybe we save ourselves.
Yeah. Don't do that.
I'm not saying he will. I'm saying that that's what you have to look. You look at it and say, if we hit on this guy and Shedeur comes in and is a lot better than anybody ever thought, then we save ourselves 2 or 3 years.
I still think the Browns might take. I'm honestly I'll put nothing by anything here. The idea that the Browns are locked on Travis Hunter, and now the latest rumor that they are now shopping the 2 pick means, man, I don't want to take Sanders here, but I will if I have to. Something is weird. And again, it might just play out. He might fall all the way to Pittsburgh, like people are predicting is going to happen, and that's the end of that. But to me, it's less about the player, and it's more about when are you going to be in a position to possibly get your quarterback again. There was a really interesting, I think it was Matt Miller, ESPN, had put a great piece out a month or so ago, ranking all the quarterbacks since the Pickett draft, whenever that was, 20, 21, whatever it is,
something, yeah.
all first-round quarterbacks taken, ranked based on their pre-draft rankings. So how they were viewed, okay? And it went 18, Cam Ward, 19, Penix, 20, 20 was Bo Nix, and 21 was Sanders or something like that. And then the last one was Pickett, or maybe it was 17, 18, 19, 20, and Pickett was 21. Point being, they were all at the bottom, with Drake May being number 5, Daniels being 4, Caleb Williams being 1. So you don't get that draft that you got last year. Even Trey Lance and other people were more highly regarded with crazy question marks and warts. You know Sanders can play the position. He doesn't have the measurables or the elite athleticism, and there's some things that knock him down. And this is the let me find something wrong with the guy season. And I've never seen people find more things wrong with a person than they found with Sanders, because it felt like he and Ward were interchangeable. And then all of a sudden was like, no, Ward's elite and Sanders is here. And I didn't realize there was that much separation between the two based on what people were how people were talking a couple of months ago. And then it just kept going and going and going. So I don't know. The problem here is, you're expecting / hoping, or the NFL is designed for bad teams to get good fast. Okay. You get an easier schedule. You probably have money to spend because you've shed all of your parts or traded off pieces, and, and you have high draft picks, and you can turn things around very quickly. Like we've seen multiple teams do, the Washington Commanders, the most recent, having done that. You're not counting on being a bottom 5 team next year. So the chance of getting, if you do have an elite quarterback class where quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, you're not going to be there to get them, which means the next stab you get at a quarterback is probably going to be a Sanders type in the middle or back end of a first round of a loaded draft. And that means you're going to get your Knicks or your Penix, both of whom were projected to be late first or early second guys that were reaches where they got taken in this draft. So when are you going to be back here? If you're the Giants, you're not counting on, like, fans might think the Giants are shit and they'll stay shit, but the Giants aren't counting on that to be back in a bottom 3, bottom 4, bottom 5 position to address quarterback. You can't ignore it. So you do have to take a stab. To me, you're taking quarterback unless you hate them, or you have a plan and you're just as happy filling in late trade back into the first, late second, because you've got Sanders the same as the next 5 guys and you're happy to take him elsewhere, which is totally possible. And if that's how it plays, that's what I'm going to guess is happening, is people are grading Sanders about the same as almost everybody else who's going to go after him.
And it's funny because, like, this time last year, everyone wants to make Drake May seem like it was such an obvious pick, even though there were plenty of people that were saying, no, you need to create the environment for the quarterback first. And I just felt like I was taking crazy pills, because I'm like, you can't do that. Like, quarterback and left tackle are the 2 positions where if you like someone and you love him, you cannot pass up on them because they are too rare. Imagine if the Patriots had drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, can you? Oh my God! Yeah. Now we're stuck in the Shador versus like a Jackson Dart discourse. Versus, I'm much happier being like, hey, Will Campbell's not great at left tackle, but like you can make it work.
You gotta check that box. You gotta check the quarterback box.
But the thing is, if they're smart, the Giants, like the Saints, and the Giants can't really do this because I don't think their coaching staff's going to get another year. But if they're smart, you take your medicine. If the class sucks, get blue chips and you suck that next year and hopefully get a high enough pick to benefit from a better quarterback draft. But
that's the issue. They don't have that chance.
And it's also just so rare. Like, you don't really get multiple very good quarterback prospects in the same draft very often. So I don't know. If I were the Giants thinking long-term, I would take Abdul Carter, get my blue chip, go on my merry way, and be like, hey, if I get 2 wins, awesome. See, maybe I get Arch Manning whenever the hell he goes out for the draft or whatever. But I mean, that's not how teams operate because they're businesses, and I get it. But I mean, it stinks seeing teams reach like the Giants might, and know in your heart of hearts they're probably going to be looking at a quarterback again.
It stinks. It stinks, stank, stunk is what I have to say. It's a terrible scenario. And speaking of which, we're going to bring in Mr. Stink, Stank, Stunk, Mike Giardi here to say hi. I couldn't help it with the segue. Mike, while you're smiling and getting acquainted and getting all situated here, I do have to take a quick pause for one of our sponsors. But we are going to get right back to Mike Giardi, and he's going to give us his. You've got information, right? You promised me you'd have something.
Yeah,
we'll see.
No other reason for him to be here.
You
Yeah,
got
right.
you got 1
Obviously.
minute and 8 seconds to come up with something.
Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, and all you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. So run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is the NBA playoffs. They are officially here, and the action is heating up on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on all of your favorite sports. Think LeBron James will get more than 24 points? You think Giannis will have more than 35? Cook up those hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts projections on the board up to 15 to 25% with Taco Tuesdays, and they also have Flex Fridays. So make sure you opt in and tap the checkbox in your lineup to be eligible for this protected play. And all you got to do is download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, back to Mike Giardi here, Boston Sports Journal's Mike Giardi, former NFL Network, former NBC Sports Boston, former NECN, former Binghamton, what?
Yeah.
Something in Binghamton.
IVT, WIVT.
Yeah. Giardi bringing a wealth of experience and information to the situation. And like Tayler and like Mike has been grinding, looking at tape and has takes. But before we get into kind of, the way you see it or what you would like to see, it's those things don't always, always jive. Your plan, their plan, we'll see how it goes. What's your kind of vibe, headed here? And we let off the show asking this, but does it feel like the Will Campbell is just chalk? It's set in stone, or is there a chance there's some BS and some smoke there with the Patriots and they've got some other things going on we're not privy to?
I mean, I know that they have taken phone calls where teams were calling about, hey, should a player drop, I'm sure it's Hunter or Carter, right? Mm-hmm. Would you be interested in moving off your pick and what would it take? But those were only just sort of exploratory conversations. I don't know if anything has heated up since that point. I would say that I think Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf, Ryan Cowden, that whole crew has been incredibly tight-lipped. Like, this is Belichickian, and it's sort of squeezed down the information. Like, what you know, and we've obviously made a lot of connections because they need a left tackle, and this guy, Will Campbell, is allegedly the best tackle in the draft. Ergo, they're spending a lot of time with him. This is going to be the pick. And there's 1,000,001 reasons why it would make sense to draw that conclusion, including the amount of time they spent with him. But I would say that there's part of me in my back of my brain just saying, like, I don't know. I feel like I know this pick has been for sale for a while, just no one has jumped on it. And, is there someone willing to entice them with something sweet enough to get them to move off of 4? And I wouldn't imagine, like, I don't know. Denver gets thrown around as they've been a team calling around. Houston's been calling around. I think probably going back to 20 or 25, even if it results in a first-round pick next year, might be too far back for this group to do, just based on sort of their needs and their immediate needs. But I think it's something worth exploring for sure.
So who's the guy, guys? Who do you guys think? Who's the guy that teams move up for? Because again, a month ago I would have said, oh geez, if Sanders there, Patriots are going to have teams knocking on their door. And then all of a sudden everybody starts signing their crap backup quarterbacks, veteran quarterbacks, Band-Aids, whatever it is. And now it seems like teams are set, I guess, if you call Justin Fields being set. But
James,
there's some teams have kind of moved off those things. So then it's, now the high riser is Janty as like what if he's available and Jacksonville's going to take him at 5, maybe you get to 4. But what do you think it is? Who do you think gets you the juice, like enough to be worth trading down? Is it Hunter? Is it Carter? Who are teams hoping drops to that spot right now the most?
My view on it would be Genty from just reading the tea
Really?
leaves.
Ahead of Hunter or Carter right now? You think that's
Well, no,
the
not
guy?
ahead of those guys. I think that if those, I just don't see those guys falling. It feels like that's going to go 2-3. And if Jacksonville ends up making this move that it sounds like they're trying to do to go get to number 4, that's going to be for Hunter. Then the Browns are going to be at 5. They're not really in the market for a running back. I don't know what the deal necessarily is with Chubb there, but it feels like teams are going to want to come to 4 to get ahead of the Jags, who seemingly are in on Genty, and whether that's the Chicago Bears at pick number 10, which isn't that far back of a drop from 4 to 10 compared to like Denver, like you had mentioned, Mike, or a team like the Raiders, who seemingly were in on Genty and now all of a sudden are looking for a tackle. Maybe they could want to jump Jacksonville as well, or Jacksonville just sits there at 5 and takes their guy. So my thing is, if the Patriots are going to be in on these calls, which again, they've been pretty tight-lipped, like Mike said, so we haven't really heard much compared to, Chicago's calling to get ahead of XYZ, but nobody's really connected it to the Patriots. It does feel like the smoke right now is that it's going to be for Ashton Genty.
Wow.
I don't really see who else it would be for, right? Because the whole conversation is there's not any blue chip players.
I'm saying if Hunter or Carter fall, do they have the appeal? Like as Mike said, people are like the calls they're getting right now. Mike G was that, hey, if a guy's there, if it's presumably those calls are for a falling player, for the Hunter or the Carter. You think that's enough to create a package that's going to be enticing enough for the Patriots to move off that spot?
I would think that just those two players, considering I think we, despite all the critiques of Abdul Carter and maybe some of the personality stuff, like his tape as a pass rusher is awesome. He would immediately become pretty much, 25 teams best pass rusher, 20 teams best pass rusher. He'd be your best pass rusher if that's what ended up happening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that would certainly generate some serious conversation. And you're not going to get I can't imagine you're getting a quarterback like haul if that was who teams are targeting, but you might get something that is enough to say, okay, look, we like Will Campbell, we like Jalen Walker, but go back to 10 or go back to 11, and maybe we still get a shot at one of those guys. But the deal being put in front of us is just too rich to pass up, especially in a draft like this, where I know we've been saying this for years now, but like truly having studied it, like between 25 and 65, like that's the sweet spot. Mm-hmm. If you're doing a good job in this draft, you're going to find some serious players there. I don't know if they'll be stars. Maybe one or two of them will be, but they're going to be some really good starters for you that you can help build your foundation around.
Mike, you mentioned Jalen Walker. Sorry to cut you off, Taylor, quickly. Mm-hmm. You were on Jalen Walker, rather, to the Pats relatively early a couple weeks ago, saying that they had some interest. Is that still an option at 4?
Let's throw it up there. We got Mike. We'd asked all of our guests who are coming on their top 5 at 4, the players that they would be okay to take. So let's put it up there for what Giardi's got right here. And I told Mike he can include the Hunter and Carter because they might still be there. So if those two are number 2, you've got Walker as your favorite. If everything goes the way people expect, you want Walker.
I do. I know people, again, it's funny because he's another guy that doesn't have the perfect arm length for what he is, but I think he's a weapon. Like, I think of anybody, Mike Vrabel would know exactly how to utilize someone like this. He grew up in a system as a player where he lined up on the nose. He lined up in the center guard gap. He lined up in the guard tackle gap. He lined up on the edge. Sometimes he was 30 yards downfield defending passes. Now, he's a bigger dude than Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker's a better athlete than Mike Vrabel. So I think he could mitigate some of the arm length thing when you're trying to go get someone. I know sometimes it's like, oh, you have a hard time disengaging. Like, I don't really see that all that much in his tape. And look, he did a lot of things for Georgia to the point where you could say, well, like, what is he? I just think like I don't care. You don't have to tell me he's an edge. You could tell me he's going to play first down here, second down over there, third down over here. And like, I think a coaching staff with a plan gets an absolute force on defense. And you would talk about like the character aspect of this. You're talking about the cleanest guys in the draft. When people talk about like who are the best dudes, like the guys you want on your team, it's Travis Hunter, it's Will Campbell, it's Emeka Egbuka. I totally screwed up his name, and it's Jalen Walker. Like those dudes are like to the forefront. Everyone's like, I love those guys. They're the best character guys in addition to being really good football players.
Seriously, I always think when I think of Ibuka, I think there was a Channel 7 reporter that had a really similar name. Anyway, so you like Walker here. You also like Williams, Membu. What's really interesting here is Will Campbell, your El Jefe, your boss's guy.
Yeah.
Bedard, who we're going to get on here in a little bit.
Yeah.
I
think he took a couple softballs off the head. Yeah. He coaches, I think, I don't know.
He's coaching right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's like in the movies where when you do get hit in the head, another hit to the head reverses your thinking.
Exactly.
So maybe if he catches another one, he'll come back and come to his senses on Campbell. He's all in on Campbell. You don't even have him in your top 5 here.
Well, if we're being fair, he'd probably be 6 on this list. And this is the thing that I think this is what happens when you go on early edition and you have to argue with the law firm of Perry and Curran. You tell them that Will Campbell's a really good football player, and you believe in your heart of hearts Will Campbell's going to be a good player in the league for a long time. But because I don't see him as a tackle, I wouldn't draft him at 4.
Yeah.
That's really been my argument. We're talking about, and you guys have done it ad nauseum. We've done it ad nauseum. It's not just the arm length and the wingspan. It's also the hand size. He's a triple threat in terms of lowest percentiles in the league if he becomes a tackle. He would, and look, he was awesome in college, and he might be the outlier, right? Phil likes to throw Bernard Ryman at me, and okay, it took him a couple of years. Now he's a good player. He's in the upper half of tackles, the top 15. So if Will Campbell becomes the 14th best tackle, is that worth it at 4? I personally think you aim higher. I think you aim for a star. I think when you're picking 4, that's what you're doing. And is there a risk that because I don't know, Jalen Walker doesn't quite have a position, or you're projecting a little bit with Michael Williams in terms of sack numbers, that guy can't get there? Yeah, but it's also the same thing with Will Campbell. He's never played guard. Do I think he can do it? Absolutely, I think he can do it. He's a good enough athlete. He's got the nasty streak. He should be able to handle it. They pulled him a lot more last year at LSU, so he showed some of those movement skills. But he's never done it before. He's been a left tackle and only a left tackle. You're muted.
That's a normal thing. I do it so you don't hear me chomping on ice and stuff. Let me ask you this. This is you guys watch that. You guys understand it. You watch the tape. I find the whole arm length thing one of the most fascinating things in the world. 33, you're going to Canton. 32 and 5/8. Back of the first round, you go, my friend. You're a guard. So I find it so bizarre. Isn't there a way to make up for that half inch of arm length that you needed? If you were, again, in lay terms, if you're in your kitchen and something falls off the counter just out of reach, are you better to have cat-like reflexes and agility, or just half an inch more arm length if you're going to try to catch that thing before it falls? Can't you make up for this little of reach with superior athleticism and footwork? I can't believe it can't be compensated for.
It could be compensated for if he were broader, if he had
it's just
hands.
A triple threat. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's if it were
not
one
just
of those
this,
things.
It's this.
Exactly. He just doesn't take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you get Tyler Booker next to him, right? If you get a fridge where it's
right.
he can play a little bit tighter because he knows that he's going to have help. That's one thing. But even with Layden, Layden's not really the broadest guy either. He's kind of a tall, thin guy. So I think of them next to each other and I'm I like the players, but it's just size-wise, it's kind of a weird combination where you're super wide on the right. And then honestly, I would like to see it just for the all 22 end zone angle of how funky that's going to look on both sides of the center. But
okay, we got these monsters on the right side, and Wenu was wide, and Morgan's a huge dude, and then you're going to have these skinnier, narrow guys on the left side.
It's going to look like an unbalanced line. Even
yeah, you're what's a tight end doing over there? Oh, no, that's your left tackle.
Well, it's just Morgan Moses.
That's one part.
It's interesting to me too. In talking to a lot of people who
he can reach the ashtrays,
scout execs, assistant coaches. It's they'll tell you that his tape wasn't I made this point on the radio, and again, I did a bad job, and I had to correct myself. I'm his tape wasn't that good. That's not fair. That's not what it is. But the way people are talking about him versus the way the tape looked this past year, there's a little bit of a difference there. And I think guys who are really smart about this, who do it for a living, like as in terms of the media style, Brugler, Daniel Jeremiah, even they're like in the write-ups initially, it wasn't like, oh, he's playing guard. Now it's like, well, he could end up kicking inside the guard. That might be where he's best suited, but he'll probably start a tackle. Like, okay, everybody sees it. Nobody here locally, because you're so desperate for a left tackle, wants to admit that that's kind of a little bit of a weird thing. Like, oh, we're drafting him at left tackle, but we don't really believe he's a left tackle. Maybe he will be. Maybe he'll be the outlier. Maybe one of the, 16, 12%, whatever the number is, that can do it. But okay, then there's 88% of it that says he can't do it.
Or maybe he'll be great at a position he's never played. That's another hopeful thing.
That's what I said. I think he can do it. I think you guys would agree. Like, watch him, and he's got the movement skills. He should be able to handle it. But he has never done it. Now, I was doing that Doug Kide event last week, which was awesome, raised a lot of money. And, there's the whole hive of the Will Campbell guys. Mark Daniels is so dug in, you think he's related to Will Campbell. Like, not even like a cousin or something. Like, they like to be brothers. But so he's like, well, Armand Membu started as a guard and then moved to tackle. I'm like, you're arguing against yourself, because at least I know Armand Membu can play guard. He did it. I know he did it. Will Campbell never did it. He played left tackle. He was real good at LSU. Maybe that translates to the NFL, or maybe he's an average to below average guy, and you're going to go back and say 3 years from now, like, boy, I wish we had taken Jalen Walker or Michael Williams or Armand Membu, who we know has a bit better measurables, like whatever it may be. Like, that's the thing to me that I can't.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to beat into people's heads, and they just don't want to hear it, because they've just sort of, as I wrote today, we're at the acceptance stage of this now, where I think a lot of people are like, he's going to be the guy, so we might as well get behind it. Well, I'm not behind it or not behind it. I'm just telling you what I believe, what I've been told, and then we'll judge it when he gets here. If he's good, I'll sit there and write that he's good. And if he's not, I'm going to do the same thing.
I told you so.
There's going to be a little lap there. There's going to be a little victory.
I mean, I'll tell you, I didn't even take a victory lap on the wide receivers. Not really, but I was right. I'm just saying, I was right.
Yeah. The one thing I want less than a short-armed, narrow-shouldered tackle is a contested catch receiver. I don't want anyone
I'm
to
there
say,
too now.
Don't say that to me. Contested catch is another way to say can't get open. Okay. I don't want to hear it. We talked to, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, can I tell you, like, so I look at, and look, Jalen Polk was not like necessarily a contested catch guy. He's not that big frame, but like, after watching him not be able to pull away from guys, and then at least during the first week of training camp, before he just fell into a pit and we never really saw him again, Javon Baker, like, he there was something extra when the ball was in the air that Polk didn't have. So do I have much faith in either guy bouncing back? No, but like, I'd almost lean like, if Baker could ever get his head in the right place, like, maybe, I mean, he is the more talented guy. Like, that's the sort of where I'm at with the receiver thing too now. It's just like, I don't know if I really want to deal with another one of these guys. He's a good route runner. Well, great. But can he separate? It's, so many of these guys from college, like, oh, they're easy to find wide receivers. There's a bunch of them that come in and don't do squat either. So it's like, it's a hard sort of, it's hard judging these guys now, like, because some of these guys put up ridiculous numbers in college, and it just doesn't translate into the pros.
There is also the possibility of trading, which I guess I would say, if there is a consensus among the majority of Patriots fans, is if you can't get Carter or Hunter, find a way to trade down, still get your tackle, because everyone feels about the same. If as long as you land one of them, maybe you land them later, get some more draft capital, get your receiver, trade back up into the first round, figure out some stuff to do. I think that that's something that a lot of people are super interested in doing. So Mike's trade down scenario, I'll put it up here if I can find it. Is it Giardi's, or you guys? You can't put Mike when I have two mics here. Okay. There it is. No, that's Giardi's top five.
Top five.
We didn't talk about Michael. I love Michael.
You
That's
did? You want?
Yeah, look, you put Will at 1.
Well, first of all, I didn't put in Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter because they're not going to be there.
I didn't either, to be fair.
So
I didn't
that
either.
officially
I guess I'll forgive you.
I told him you could put it up there.
Yeah, he don't listen. Kids these days.
Not our strength.
Yeah.
ADHD, phones, and all that shit.
Taylor, you're wearing your party shirt, by the way, too, right?
Yeah, it's draft day, baby.
Yeah,
Fireworks
baby.
shirt.
I like it.
Thanks,
I like it. Bring the happy.
Trying. We're gonna need it.
Here, how about this, John? As you continue to look for it, I will tell you what I suggested. Which it's funny because there was a report from earlier, and there's been a couple over the course of the last few days about Chicago maybe wanting to come up. And so I had done it, I think, in my second mock draft where I had Chicago and the Patriots swap picks, and it was 4, 10, and 41. The Patriots might have had to throw in like 171 to like even out from the Rich Hill modified draft chart, but it was something to that effect where it's 4, 10, and 41. In a heartbeat, I would do that. In
this
a
one?
freaking heartbeat. Nope, that's the other Mike. Yeah, in a heartbeat, because to me, you still have a chance to get Will if that's really what you desire, or potentially Membu if, as we're hearing now, the Raiders maybe are fond of Kelvin Banks from Texas. There's also the possibility of you just take the best player there, whether it's Michael or Jalen Walker, and then now you have 38, 41, 69, and 77, and you say, oh, Minnesota, we know you want out. We know you want to back up because you only have 4 picks. We're coming up to 24 with a couple of those picks, and now we're in range for the tackle. And maybe you have to go even further, depending on how the board falls, and have to jump up to 17 or 18. But the point is, you'd have the capital to do it, and all of a sudden you'd come away going, we got the guy we think is our left tackle in Josh Connerly or whoever, and we have Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, someone of that ilk, and it's like, ooh, we got 2 what you believe are cornerstone pieces to go along with Gonzo and Drake May and a few of the other things. And now all of a sudden you're like, okay, this, they could cook a little bit here.
The one thing that worries me with the trade downs, especially the ones to 10, like 6, I like, because even if you do lose out on Will Campbell or Armand Membo, you can come back and get one of the other guys. 10, it feels like that's where you're, like John, you said, you're kind of getting cute and you're really taking a chance. And like when I look at the rest of the tackle class, I don't love a lot of the guys. Like Josh Connerly, I know is like NFL ready, technique and all that. I've seen him get walked back by power way too much. And I just think that's a part of his game that he lacks, that I think the Patriots would value. We know they're versatile, especially to the left, but they like their gap stuff. So it seems more like, okay, you're talking about, at that point, it is a Will Campbell, it's Armand Membu. Then it's like Josh Simmons, Ariante Ursary, who for some reason, like he keeps getting mocked outside of the first round. And now we're hearing that it's a work ethic thing. And that's not even, I know a lot of people start saying things once the draft gets closer, but even Nate Tice's dad, Mike Tice, mentioned that when he saw the tape, he thought that he was streaky, where Penn State, Ursary's like on one, he's out for blood. But then you see against lesser competition, he doesn't play the same way. So it's kind of like, I don't like spreading that kind of stuff, but it's like, well, if it's on the tape, that does start to add up. So if you go to 10, is there somebody that you'd be comfortable with him actually getting? And is Josh Simmons someone that you think they'd be comfortable with if he falls?
So look, if anybody's going to know what Josh Simmons is about, it would be Vrabel, right? I mean, because of the connection to Ohio State. And look, there's been a lot of just, he doesn't like to practice is one of the things. He's just a kind of I keep getting a couple of these guys that get like, they're different. And you're like, well, what does that mean? And it's like, well, it's the sort of the new generation of players. It's the NIL. It's the, I don't know. They don't like to be criticized. Like, not that the guys 20 years ago liked it either, but you probably had to just shut up and take it. Now it's like, well, good. I'll go somewhere else. Texas will pay me $1 million to come to their place, or, whoever it might be. So there is that thing, but we're also talking about 21, 22-year-old kids. Like there's a level of immaturity. I think we all had at 21, never mind when you're having a chance to make millions of dollars. I'm surprised you don't like Connerly that much, Taylor, because I don't want to say I love him. A small L love. Mm-hmm. Like, I just think I think he's going to be a really good player. And I think he's still growing as a player. I think your point is right about the power, but I think like he could get a little bit more sand in his pants. Like, I think he could put on 10 pounds. He's going to be in the strength program for a year or two.
And the thing is, his lower half is kind of small, though. That's the thing. Like,
that's what he said. Sand in the pants.
Start thinking, like, if they got the big butt, you can start putting weight on that thing. Whoa. I got a little crazy.
Flip that.
I'd like that as a meme, whatever those things are. I'd like one of those. No, I understand that, but like, to me, that's where, okay, your body type is what your body type is, but you're going to put me in the strength program for a year? Like, everyone's talking about Will Campbell right now. And like, you seem like the best thing you're getting when people talk about Will Campbell in his first year is like solid, solid. Bedard's thing was like, he's not the hero you want, but he's the one you need. And like, he'll just make you better at the position. But to what end? The position was awful last year. So the bar is really low. Like, I think Connerly would be better than that. And then there's room for growth there with the player that, I don't know, like, it's just one of those things where if I'm looking at it saying I can get 10 and 41, and now I can maneuver the board a little bit and still get my tackle and take the best player available at 10. If it's not a tackle, like, I'm kind of cooking with gas there. And like, the last thing I would say is like, everybody wants a wide receiver. I think we know they're going to add one in the first 2 days at some point, but like, that's third on my list. Like,
I don't think it's as high of a priority as a lot of people.
Yeah, like I'm like, people are like, well, there's some rumblings they trade up for Ibuka, and I'm like, I wouldn't do that.
I'd almost rather take 2 swings at a tackle and hope
that
one of them could play.
That video of Tayler, and then when they trade up for Ibuka, and he's like,
pumped. Yes, Ibuka, we got him.
No, I'm consistent. I am consistent. I may not be right all the time, but I'm consistent.
Well,
this is not a team that needs a Emeka Ibuka. This is a team that needs some level of verticality or yak ability. I usually watch 3 to 4 games on someone. I've watched like 10 on Ibuka at this point. And I'm just like, I don't see the guy that people want to trade up for. It's like, you got to take the character out of it. Like, I understand that's a big part of his profile, and he does a lot of things well, but I'm like, he doesn't pull away from anybody. He doesn't catch like everything. He's got some weird concentration drops. Like, I just don't see the trait where people think he's the difference maker in an offense that already has a ton of possession receivers. Like, who is he taking off the field? Like, he's not better than Mac. I think he's better than Mac Hollins. I'm sorry. But, like, he fits a different role where he's a Z in the slot. That's Stephon Diggs. You probably don't want to take off the field. I think Jalen Polk has more upside, to be totally honest with you. So I want somebody like a Kyle Williams, even a Trey Harris, if you like his separation ability, a Jalen Knoll, like these Jaden Higgins, the Emeka Ibukas, the Alec Iomanners. I'm like, that's not what this team needs. They need juice, and I don't think any of those guys bring it.
You're speaking my language there, because I'm in absolute love with Jalen Knoll.
Is that a big L or a little L?
That's a big L. Like, that was even before the Senior Bowl, then at the Senior Bowl. I'm like,
what do you think of his butt?
He's got a nice butt. Come to Papa. Like, that was Williams is interesting to me because he does some awesome stuff. You want to talk about concentration lapses? Like, I want to strangle him sometimes. Like, what do you do? You got to catch that. And talking to some people around the league, it was like, he's obviously got the home run potential, but he could also just drive you nuts with the drops. Like, so I'm a little bit. People are high on him. I think the league is high on him. I'm a little lower on him because I just don't like that. Like, you're not that big, and you're going to drop the ball consistently. Like, Noel put the ball on the ground a couple times, but like, I think the quarterback there. Not a fan. Like, you threw everything 110 miles an hour.
Shane Higgins was going to fight him in one game.
Yes.
Like, literally.
Yeah. I mean, and like, literally, like, people are like, oh, I don't know if Noel's got the yards after catch stuff, and you don't really see it on tape. I'm like, well, yeah, because Beck's throwing the ball 110 miles an hour. It's like, just make sure you freaking catch it. Like, I've got to make sure I get it before I do anything with it. Whereas we saw him at the Senior Bowl, and it was like, pluck and go. Like, just right up the field. You're like, ooh, one motion. It was just like, he did it so quickly that I was like, I'm intrigued by that. So I'm with you. Like, I'm in York. I don't even. Callahan picked him in one of his mock drafts that I was on, and I made a face. I was just like, "Don't."
He's coming on later. We'll let him. Yeah. We'll let him know that you're not happy. Yeah.
Can I throw a couple things on the trade back to like 10
very quickly? I just want to say to Mike Giardi, Mike's kind enough to on draft night to spend his time with us, but he does have an out. Mike, when you're ready to go, just say, guys, I got to tip out, and otherwise we're gonna hog up all your time. So let us know when you got to wrap it. But go, Mike Kadlick, go ahead.
Well, on the trade back from like 4 to 10, right? I feel like, again, depending on what you get, the gap from a Will Campbell back towards the type of player that it feels like Mason Graham's dropping a little bit, but you also have the 2 tight ends in Loveland and Warren. I don't know if they necessarily need that, but Jalen Walker could be there. Michael Williams could be there. All guys that we're talking about at 4. So I guess it would depend on what you get in return. But my question for you, Mike, too, here is like, okay, going from 4 to 10 in another year could warrant like a future first, a second, and maybe a player or or whatever. It would be a bigger package than what you had mentioned and what's been floated, which was like 10 and that 30, 39 or 41, I think they have. So obviously you're not paying a quarterback tax because they're probably going up for a Genty or someone like that. It's not going to be Shedeur Sanders. But does that throw off the rest of the draft as far as like you're not getting the value of that 4th pick? Or like how does that work, I guess, across the league? And is it just different in different drafts? And is that something I guess they should worry about if they only get a lesser of a haul for a jump from 10 to 4?
Well, I mean, off the modified trade chart, which I think, everybody has their own versions of things, but I find that's obviously because he constantly is tweaking it, that it's about as up to date as it can be. That 10 and 41, and again, I think there was maybe they could give you a 5th, and you give them. So there was something to even it out, but it was sort of that type of play where I don't know. Once again, are we talking about what's the difference between Connerly, Simmons, if you want to put him in that group, coming off the patellar, Ursary, who I'm not a big fan of, but some people are.
What do you think of him, actually? Why don't you like him?
He's on the ground a lot.
That's fit. Yeah, the balance is
not in a good way.
They play football on the ground.
No, and I don't know. I heard the same one that you heard with Mike Tice and Nate Tice doing it. He didn't like him at all, and I was like, good. Kind of validates my feelings. I just don't. I mean, could he be good? Yeah, but there's a lot of things to have to channel there, and I don't think he moves awesome for his size. He doesn't have consistent requisite nasty that you want in a man that big. Dude, you should be the intimidator. You should just be knocking people out left and right, and he's just not doing it. So, by the way, Tights love Connerly. So that was a big. I think he had Connerly as his number 1 tackle. So that
he did. He did
that helped validate my whole feelings on this. I'm like, am I out on an island over here? No,
that's the craziest thing.
For 35 years is saying some of the same things that I wrote down on my notes. I'm like, all right, I'm not an idiot.
I'm an
idiot, but not that much of an idiot.
I think I only watched the Ursary games where he was locked in, honestly, because when I heard it, I was like, because I hate that. When guys are on the ground a lot, that's something where it chips away at me and I lose patience. I just didn't really see it a ton. There was one game and I didn't dig any deeper because I was like, you know what? This is what I think he could be, and I'm going to hang on to this. But I totally understand why people aren't high on him. And again, why I hesitate so much. If you don't love Connerly, which they might, but if they don't love Connerly and Simmons isn't really your guy, whether it's because of the injury or the character, you're playing with fire. And it's the only reason where I'm like, you know what? I can live with Campbell. He's played the position, and you know that he is going to be a valuable piece of an important part of your offense, and helps Drake May and all that.
Well, and when you start looking at it though, what's to say Campbell's not there at 10? I know it's a little bit of a dice roll.
Yeah.
You have to own the board, but if you're looking at Ward, Hunter, Carter, team comes up for Genty, Chicago comes up for Genty. 5 is Jacksonville, who now got stubbed because they wanted to come up for Hunter. Do they take Tet, which has been the rumor?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great for the Patriots because I don't think they were taking Tet. And I think a lot of people didn't think he was going to be in the top 10. So now it's an ad. Then if Banks does the Raiders pivot to Campbell, or do they lock in on Banks? But then that pushes him back. You'd have to own the board, and you'd have to be willing to make a couple calls to 8 and 9 and be like, hey,
yeah.
If someone calls you and says, we want to come up,
you're taking, did to the Chargers in that video.
But now you also, now you have an extra pick, and you can do some things like we saw last year with what the Chargers did when they traded with you for McConkey, right? It was 34 and 106 for 38 or 37 and 129, whatever the switch was, where you're staying in the round, but you're just going back, and because we're the Patriots pick, that's a sizable increase for some teams. So, all right, sweeten the pot a little bit. Give me that 4th round pick. We'll give you ours. Ours is 130. Yours is 106. That's nice for them. Meanwhile, you still concentrate and get the guys that you want at the top end of the draft, where, let's face it, that's still where those are the ones you can't miss.
Yeah.
Day 3, I'll say it for a million times, and I know you can throw this guy, that guy at me. There's always good players that come out of day 3, always, and some become stars. But generally, those are just dart throws. Okay, we like this characteristics, this qualities. Maybe this guy was hurt a lot. Whatever the case may be. Or, hey, Julian Edelman, he doesn't have a position. We think he's a good athlete. Let's just figure it out. We get him here. It took a long time for it to become what it became, but they invested in it and they got it there. But those aren't the normal stories with the 5th, 6th, and 7th round guys.
We're getting some NFL insider rumblings here on the X machine.
Give it to us.
Rap Sheet says the Browns currently hold the number 2 pick with interest inside the top 10. Cleveland is open for business.
Yeah.
Chaos coming? ? Now, this is similar. Like, this is the same smoke we've seen over the last hour or two, but with Rap Sheet put a graphic on it with developing news underneath. So that's
if he doesn't come up with something every hour, he loses his job. So
that's also true. They have a quota over there. But
they have a quota. He's got to find a way to repackage some piece of information and get it out there.
At the same time, Schefter tweets, when assessing how the top 10 picks tonight will unfold, one well-placed source said expect explosives. So
it's so funny because literally 3 days ago, they were all telling us there's a chance there aren't any real trades in this.
Yeah, right.
Draft. When was the last time there were no trades in the first round? I'm like, what are you guys smoking? Like, everybody falls in love with guys, and all of a sudden that guy's, he's in range. We can go get him. Go get him.
I also love when everyone's pretending not to like the same person, and then all of a sudden they just all climb over themselves to get them, which, again, I'm not saying this is the case with quarterback. I just always think that there's no – without the quarterback, you're doomed. It doesn't matter. You can draft every edge rusher or cornerback or D tackle you want. It's not turning your team around. I just find it hard to believe someone or 2 or 3 teams aren't just going to start tripping over themselves and saying, I got to get it, Sam. Like, I got to take a crack here. So I'm still holding out. Mike, I didn't get your take on the Sanders situation because I think that's the domino that changes the entire draft here. Because if he goes top 3, everything is in play. Patriots could get either Hunter or Carter, or all of a sudden are holding a full deck, and could have people start coming at their guys and could be, smart and move around the board and get what they want to get and get some assets. Are you convinced he's falling out? He's fallen out of favor and he's going to drop down the board. You're certain of it?
I think he falls outside the top 10, and then, maybe then at that point.
And then it begins.
Right. I think you're already seeing, and it appears that the Giants like Jackson Dart more than they like Shador, but you're already seeing talks about the Giants wanting to get back up into the first round for a second time so they can get the crack at the quarterback later on and get the 5th-year option. But it just feels like Shador didn't, for whatever reason, and whether it's, I don't know what it is, whether it's the jealousy over the family thing and the kid and this is the way he carries himself. But like, a lot of people said the interviews weren't good. You've heard it from a lot of different places. Like, you can't say it. Well, if it wasn't good, it wasn't good. Like, what are you supposed to say? And when you combine that with the fact that probably his 2 best traits I think his best trait is his toughness. Like, he'll just stand in there and he'll get smoked and he'll get back up and do it again. And he's accurate, right? I think some of it's a little overblown because I think you can see ball placement could be better, but like, he's got the tools to be, he's accurate already, and he's got the tools to be that in the pros. Okay, those are 2 good things, but like, he doesn't have a big arm. When he throws, like, it's fine when he's in the pocket, when he's set, but when he has to go off platform, the ball doesn't have the same juice on it. And there are guys that can get away with it and do it often. And then there are guys that can't. He's one who tries to do it and shouldn't really try to do it. He's not an awesome athlete. Like, Dad was one of the greatest athletes of all time. He's not that, So it's like, I can honestly, in my head, and I don't like him as a quarterback, or I think he has a long way to go. But if I'm sitting at the table and I need a quarterback and I'm looking at Shador and Jalen Milroe, I say, well, Milroe has a superpower.
Yep.
His body is a superpower. Yeah. Like, he's a legit 4-3 guy, and he's got a cannon for an arm. So, like, does he know where it's going? No. So he's got to get better at that. But, like, the days of you can't improve your accuracy to the point where you're good in the league, I think have kind of been thrown aside now. And I know Josh Allen was a huge outlier, 52% to 59 to then like 70 in year 3. But there are other guys too. Like
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is like, you're right. It's like Philadelphia would be an awesome place for him to go, by the way, just to sort of, that's not going to happen, I don't think, but like, that would be a cool place to this is how you could do it and do it well. And this guy improved to a point where he got $250 million and won a Super Bowl and should have won another one or came damn close to it. So I watch him and I say, if I got to bet on traits, I'm going to bet on the freak athlete over here with the big cannon for an arm and hope that for a year or two, when he sits in this room and we're not worried about playing him, that we can get him to a point where year 2, year 3, he's a viable player for us.
I'm also curious, it's like, I don't really like to bring off-field stuff like personality into it really, but as I've done this, like sometimes you just realize there are things you need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I see a video of Shedeur, like it really started with the ones with him throwing with Cam Ward, where he has genuine little brother energy, where Cam is constantly like pushing him, teasing him, making fun of the arm and everything. And like, those are the kind of things with quarterbacks like alphas. You want to see them butt heads. You want to see them give and take. Like Shedeur is just like, no, man. Like, yeah, it's like he doesn't.
I don't think he cares. He's grown up around the bullshit though his whole life. He's just kind of
here's the thing. Anytime he's like, "What's your strike?" Like I feel like the accuracy thing, he leans into it to the point where it's almost like he's very clearly insecure about it. He always talks about the arm strength and he makes jokes about it, and it's just like, this is a face of the franchise, and you're talking about him going to New York. It's one thing if this guy goes to like, I don't know, it's not the same one in Cleveland, but like if he were to go to a Jacksonville, like a smaller
Cleveland,
market. Do it. No, but like if he goes to if you guys go to a smaller market where there's not going to be as much pressure, New York, they're going to rip him to shreds. So that I kind of say all that to say, do you think that's a part of the equation for New York, knowing like we need a guy who has a certain level of like mental toughness to be able to even deal with our media, much less the fan base and everything that comes with this? Because I've been hoping to see something where I'm just like, okay, Shedeur, I see it from you. And I feel like he just doesn't give off the energy of someone I feel like could lead an organization like the Giants.
It's interesting because I think his teammates have generally said good things about his leadership vibes, but I think there's so much that comes with him that it's like, it's hard enough to do this in this league anyway, and the amount that has to be invested, and you are already going in 9 different directions. You've got this thing and you're in this show and you're doing this, and like, God bless him, take it while you can get it, because you never know how long it's going to last. And then there's the whole dad thing looming over it, where his dad has been vocal. His dad will get involved at some point, and you have to, like, if you're New York and you're on your last leg there and you have to win, and you don't start, you draft him, but you're not starting him, and you're 1-5, and he's not ready to play. You think Deion's not going to say something? Like, Deion doesn't care if he's not ready to play. Oh, they stink. They got, I don't know what he's doing. He's got to get my boy in there. Like, that's going to happen. That's just, he's not like that's a whole thing. I think there's just that whole vibe to it where you got to be really secure in your job and who you are as a coach and how you're thought of around the league to even consider wanting to take that on, because I think there's always going to be that element. I don't want to say it's Tebow, but I think it sort of is. There's like a Tebow-esque vibe to it where it was like the kid never, because of the fervor around him, it was almost like he never really truly got a chance to just be a guy. And I think Shedeur's grown up in it, so that like he's now sort of part of that whole thing where you're just not just one of the guys.
You're with me then.
Kind of like Bronny.
Yeah.
So you're with me then. You
exactly.
think Tim Tebow he just needed a chance, because that was.
I don't know. He couldn't throw for the life of him. But
I gotta tell you,
he won a playoff game.
I know he did.
The year that was the most fun. The year camp he spent in New England was
not that
hilarious. Like they were running these 7-on-7 drills where you just got to drop back and do your thing, and Tebow would go back and then he'd just start scrambling, and people would laugh like, dude, this isn't what this drill is for.
My whole life of covering of training camps, 26 years. I've never seen someone run that much in 7-on-7.
It was unreal
until Mac Jones and the Matt Patricia offense in that summer that we told everybody looked terrible. And like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And then you saw it for yourself. It was a disaster. But like, I'd be like, just throw the freaking thing. Like, just throw it.
Just throw it.
Yeah.
That's what this is for.
Throw it.
Practice, dude. That's what
it would
for.
Start running in 7-on-7, and people were literally, everyone would stop and just laugh. Like, what are you doing, man?
He did his like one big group interview on the field. It was nuts. It was like 75 people hanging over him. It was gross. And like, he's super nice, polite, whatever. And like, I've been ripping him, and like everybody's ripping him because he can't throw. And then when it's over, he's like, God bless you guys. And he walked away, and I was just like,
yeah. What were we covering?
I'm a terrible human. Fine. I'm a terrible human.
What were we covering when he signed? Do you remember?
I don't.
The Blackhawks Bruins Stanley Cup. We're out in Chicago, media day for the Stanley Cup,
man.
and they signed Tebow, and we're like, we're like, we're irrelevant now, and we just did the Tebow thing. So yeah, it was.
I've
all
never
good
been
stuff.
so cold in my entire life than I was in the Chicago press room.
Yeah,
it's like 3 degrees in there.
Yeah, we're going to bring in another guy, Greg Bedard, in here. And
now I gotta leave.
Yeah.
This guy.
Company meeting, baby. Come on.
Now I do have to go. But thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
only listen to half of what Bedard says.
Yeah. So all right, Mike, thank you for joining us, buddy.
Thanks,
bringing in where's he going? Once he goes, Greg will pop in there. Greg Bedard, the man who has been banging the Will Campbell drum since the start of this whole thing. I just want to show you what it is that you are advocating here. This is Will Campbell here, and this is the outfit he chose to wear. This is your guy, Greg.
You can see how narrow he is. He looks like
oh my god!
He looks
seriously.
Like
he has narrow.
I can see the word carpet, even though he's in front of it. I can see the whole
hips are bigger than his. This is the get picked last for kickball. Sort of look. Here, but this is your guy, and you've been banging this drum here. And I'm not gonna say you're on an island, but you're more bullish on Campbell than a lot of other people. You still feel this way.
So I'll say this. This is where I am on Will Campbell. First of all, I don't like I don't love any of these tackles in this draft.
Right.
Like none of them, including Will Campbell. But like I've said, and people, when they draft Will Campbell, which I assume they will, like people need to get this tattooed. Like he's not the left tackle Patriots fans deserve, but he's the Patriots left tackle. The fans what they need. Yeah. I mean, they just do. And because you just, you look at their depth chart and where they are and where they have been, like, it's been such a train wreck that at least Will Campbell gives you a chance to be competitive and have a decent offense in year one, at least. And, I just saw Mike Reese tweeted from the Patriots party about Vrabel talking about like people being like, what was it? He said, I know you will be proud of our identity, that you will look out there and say, that's our football team. Again, I think they are really emphasizing football character, these guys. That's why I'm not, one thing that I was surprised to hear at the Senior Bowl, but I've, only heard it more and more is like Abdul Carter, like, immensely talented. There's no question about that. But a lot of NFL people are down on his football character, that he's kind of an a-hole, like independent, sort of like just going to do his own thing, like show up, like, might just bring a briefcase, not talk to anybody, do his thing, go through the motions at practice, and then ball out on Sundays. I mean, that might be good enough for some people, but as far as Will Campbell, his football character, his character is without question. He would give you a leader in that room for the next 10 years. Hopefully he's a left tackle. If he isn't, it's not the worst thing in the world. But I just think that he's the guy that the Patriots need right now to really complete the picture for their football team this year, especially the offense, where like you get Will Campbell, you figure out what they have at left guard. It's an open competition between whether it's Schweitzer, Cole Strange, Layden Robinson, Sidney So, all these guys, and then you have Bradbury, Owenu, Moses. If Campbell's decent, and the other thing that people have to keep in mind, and I've said this, is at least you're going into a situation where you have Josh McDaniels, who, if Will Campbell has limitations in certain matchups, depending on the week, he's not going to leave him on an island and going to get him exposed. If he's going against an edge rusher, like, he's going to make sure he has help to the outside for a little bit, and then so Will Campbell doesn't have to overset against the speed and then get beat inside. Like, that's not going to happen in the pros. It happens in college. There's some alarming film. The Arkansas film against Landon Jackson was rough at times, but you put all that together.
I didn't mean to do that again. That was an accident.
Hey, Greg, what you mentioned about Abdul Carter, but like Mike, we said that. I've said that a few times on the show, and I don't like to say it too loud, because I understand that Abdul Carter's freaky talented and would be someone that they don't have on the roster. But I'm watching the film, and to be fair, I'm comparing him to like Mike Green, who literally will play him. He's kind of like Wonder Woman, where like you defeat Wonder Woman by making her think she's fighting basically herself until she dies of exhaustion. Like that's Mike Green. So his motor's off the charts. But like I'm watching Abdul Carter. Can he make the splash plays? For sure. Is he making them all the time? Is he chasing plays from the backside constantly? Is he holding up against the run? Like, I just didn't see that. It felt very hot and cold. And it made me question, like, if this is the first pick of the Vrabel era, do we really think this is the guy, even if it's just like a Von Miller kind of odd personality where he's not a mean guy, he's not a bad guy, he just is an aloof dude. I just don't know if that's how you want to start this regime necessarily, which is why if you do want that guy who's going to be the leader, Will Campbell makes all the sense in the world. But I am curious, Greg, you said that you don't like any of the tackles. What do you think about Armand Membu? Not even necessarily as a left tackle, but as just an overall tackle prospect.
Love the athletic ability. Love his potential. On film, and this is backed up by people that I talked to in the league, he doesn't look overly smart. I mean, look, if you were looking for a right tackle to go and start, say you had a franchise left tackle and you just had a whole right tackle, yeah, Membu would probably be my guy. There's a lot of caution about like whether he's going to be able to handle moving, like especially left tackle, but even like guard. So I do think he's immensely talented, but where the Patriots are, he wouldn't be a guy for me. But I know there's a lot of at least reports and buzz out there that the Patriots like him and have done a lot of research, whatever. That wouldn't be for me, but he certainly has a lot of good film on tape.
Greg, let me ask you, what are the chances we're being taken for a ride here with the Patriots in terms of, all the signals going out, Campbell, character, and that's that they're going completely off script here and something that we are not thinking about or considering? Or do you feel pretty solid that like they're finding a way to get their tackle, whichever one they like best, with that first pick, whether it be at 4 or a trade down scenario, this is what they need and this is what they're going to do? Or is there any chance that like something completely off the board comes into play, like
going up to number 2 and getting Travis
going
Hunter.
up to 2, or they've loved Genty the whole time and they're snapping him up at 4? Like, is there any chance we're not seeing something here?
I think there's a low chance of that. Then again, we're dealing with a new regime.
Exactly.
Really know.
Yeah. And do you believe it's Vrabel's pick? Is Vrabel the first round guy and Wolf's got the rest of the draft? Like, who's making this call?
In my personal opinion, and no one's like really like laid this out for me, but people around the league who know some of these guys, especially Ryan Cowden, they think it's Vrabel, Cowden, and John Stryker stretch that are basically running everything, and everybody else is in the periphery. Do I think that they could be, smoke screening everyone? I mean, I'll always allow the chance. I do think that from talking to people, and they could be lying in my face, it's certainly happened before in my career. I tell the story about how Randy Mueller was the GM of the Dolphins when I was covering the team, and they needed a quarterback. And he told me to my face that they were going to take Brady Quinn if he was there at their pick. I want to say it was like 9 in that draft. And of course, I wrote it up. I wrote it up big. Brady Quinn was available, and they took who the hell? He ended up going to he's from Cleveland. It was an Ohio State guy. He was like a wide receiver, special teams. Ginn.
Oh, Ted Ginn.
Ted Ginn.
Yeah, and I remember being there. That was like one of my last duties before going to covering the Packers. And I remember because all of us, apparently the Dolphins were telling all of us that they were taking Brady Quinn, and the Dolphins were starved for a quarterback, and they're going to take Brady Quinn, and they took Ted Ginn, and they got the shit boot out of them at the fan party. And I remember Cam Cameron, the the disaster 1-year head coach. And I remember him clear as day saying, like, we need to turn those frowns upside down. Like, and he was like, but so
Oh my God.
I leave that open. But
No, I said Ginn, not Quinn.
Yeah. I'll say this: the Brady Quinn face was the saddest draft face of all draft fallers. He wore it just on him the whole time. He's like, I can't believe they didn't draft me. He looked so sad, and they took him out of the room. Eventually, I remember that one really well.
Yeah.
We are 35 minutes away from the draft here, where again the start of the draft, and the Patriots should be picking, somewhere around the 8:30 to 8:40 range. So we'll know something. Greg, we talked a lot about Campbell, but other guys you might be considering here, and I got to find the right graphic here to put up here in your top 5. Here's Greg's top 5 at 4. You have Campbell, Ty Warren, Genty, Graham, Jalen Walker here. Would you be okay with all of these if the Patriots went off script and did it? Or I made you pick 5 names and you picked 5 names, but realistically, you really only want 1 or 2 of them?
I picked 5 names. Really, if I don't want Mason Graham. I mean, good player. I worry about his size in the pros. And plus they've invested a lot at that position, and I really don't want to do that again. I like Jalen Walker. I'm not really sure about his place in the NFL, where exactly he plays. So I worry about that. But basically for me at 4, if it's chalk in the first 3, it's Campbell, Warren, and Genty. I mean, I would say the player that I have rated the highest, and I'm not like Tayler, Mike, and these guys and do like, whole chart and everything like that. But just in my mind, I love Genty. I think he's going to be spectacular. Of course, running backs need to be put in a good position. The Patriots aren't in that position. I see Genty, and I heard Louis Riddick. I think he made this comp, and I completely agree. He said he's Emmitt Smith with more explosiveness, and I agree. I mean, I love running backs I look for guys who are thick in the lower body, low center of balance, great running balance, able to break tackles, vision. Like, I think Genty has it all. Plus, he's going to get even better in the pass game. Like, I just think he is a spectacular talent, and I don't really want to pass on him. And, I understand Patriots fans, some of them not wanting to do that, but where they are right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But man, I wish, I think people know I've been standing on the table for like 5 years talking about how the Patriots needed to invest in the offensive line and offensive tackle. And especially when they're, you're staring at Trent Brown and, his lazy ass, and you're just like, they got to get ready for something else. We can't keep doing this every year. And so this is where they are. So I don't really think they can afford Genty. In my mind, I love Tyler Warren. I would love to get him. But you have to be, the only way I would do that is you have to be assured that you're going to get a decent enough tackle.
Find a way to get back into the first. Yeah.
And I'm not banking on that anymore. They got screwed. They screwed it up last year. They missed 2 waves of tackles that could have played tackle or left tackle. And I'm not doing that again.
Well, let me ask you this. If you talk about the people who are running the draft room, and if it's really more the Vrabel regime versus what we had last year, do you have more faith in the ability to manipulate the board, so to speak? Because again, we just saw that clip recently with the Chargers debacle where they're like, they want me to tell them what we're going to draft, snicker, and then they cave on it, and the Chargers and Harbaugh's all pumped that they got their guy. They couldn't get back in to get the Bills kind of screwed them over, with their situation when they're trying to get back in to draft Keon Coleman or whoever it was that they wanted to get. And they got caught not knowing what to do with that pick, panicked, traded out, didn't really do a good job moving around like they wanted to. You get a sense that these guys will be able to handle that better, or a better read on it, because that's a pretty underrated skill, I think, for, there's talent evaluation, and then there's maximizing value based off of what you have and being able to move around and still get what you want. Do you think they can do this this year with these guys, with Vrabel and his posse?
I'm not overly enthused from this point. Is that, like, I think because you got to look at it, and, like, Stretch is not a personnel guy, even though people think he will be that at some point in time. Vrabel, I don't think is that good at it yet. Cowden would really be the guy, and it's possible. I do still have a lot of confidence as far as people and their contacts around the league that they can read the room a little bit better in Wolf and like Alonzo Highsmith. Like, if, say, the Seahawks wanted to deal out, like, Schneider's not going to screw over Elliott Wolf and Alonzo Highsmith. They're not. Those guys are like brothers. But in general, I think the Patriots, this new regime, I think they're going in with the attitude of, let's not F this up, okay? And let's not get over our skis and try to get too aggressive. Like, that's why I think it's much more likely that the Patriots stick and pick at least the first 2 days where they are right now, than maybe trading back, than in terms of anything else in terms of trading up. I think they just don't want to F it up, and they have a plan that they're confident in, and we'll see whether they can execute it.
John, you're muted.
I hate that. We are inside 30 minutes until the NFL draft kicks off. It is 7:31 with the draft supposedly starting at 8 o'clock here. We've got Greg Bedard from Boston Sports Journal here on the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast, which you can find here on the CLNS Media Network. We have another special guest coming on in just a second to join us, and Greg at some point is going to have to bail on us, and that's okay. We appreciate the time here, but first we got to hear from one of our sponsors over at Game Time.
Patriots Daily is powered by Game Time, the best place to get last-minute tickets to your favorite events. And with the NBA playoffs officially here, we all know it's better to go see games in person. So make sure you use the Game Time app to get to your favorite team's games today. They have last-minute deals with killer prices. You also get the all-in pricing feature, views from your seat, the lowest price guaranteed, and so much more. And Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. I'm heading in to Boston this week to watch them take on the Magic. And I use the Game Time app because it is the best place, my favorite place, to get tickets to your favorite games with their last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
And let's welcome in Andrew Callahan from Gillette Draft HQ. Inside the war room. Can we say you're inside the war room?
You're muted. So yes, you might be.
You might be muted.
So I just wanted to follow John's suit. Not a war room. There's no kind of battle, no violence here. It is very unofficial in the Herald office, but I appreciate the warm welcome. Sounds like I'm going to hang out with Kadlick, who's coming to Boston for some Celtics games, courtesy of Game Time. So I'm very excited.
Andrew Callahan, I should have said the Patriots columnist / Celtics insider beat reporter when it comes to the playoffs, covering all things Boston right now. But this is your little final Pats hurrah before you go all in on Celtics, right?
Yeah, Callahan come lately is what they call me down at the Garden when I just show up for the games that really matter because, look, they're good. We have to wait through 82 games. I don't have that patience. I will do football until I can do basketball, and we're almost there, baby.
Yeah. So where are you at right now in your head? We've had, all of this draft coverage leading up to this point, and there's this general vibe that it's going to be boring and it's going to be Campbell and, that's that. And then you move on. And what did we all waste all of our time for? It's not the only pick that they're going to make, but that's where we're at right now. What are you feeling here as we're kind of approaching go time?
Yeah, look, John, I just think it's important to remember that when we get to the draft, very often we come full circle. And I remember distinctly arguing on my podcast, on the radio, TV, like take the kid from LSU, who allowed 2 sacks and 38 career starts. And the numbers go deeper than that, which I know, Greg and Tayler and Mike have explored, and the pressure rate's higher than I would like relative to guys like Armand Membu. But look, this is about also what Mike Vrabel wants. And when you go back full circle to 3 months ago, about guys who earn it every single day, guys who are leaders, who are selfless. Will Campbell's a Mike Vrabel guy. This makes sense from a positional standpoint, from a culture standpoint. They love him. He'll be the pick. Then we all move on.
Greg likes it.
I want to actually throw that to the both of you here, because Greg, I know you had mentioned too where, okay, they need to get the tackle now, which for the most part I would agree with, but it's also to not get put in the situation you were last year where you missed that second and third run of tackle. But if this sort of pseudo consensus that we have is, well, if you can't figure him out at tackle, you're just going to move him into guard. How do you feel about actually taking someone who does turn into a guard with the 4th overall pick, as opposed to taking someone who might be better off at tackle versus trading back to call it 10 with the Bears, if that's something that, comes up in the next 25 minutes? Like, where are you with taking someone who could end up as a guard with the 4th overall pick?
I'm fine with it. Like,
Okay.
And it's more of it's out of desperation. And the thing is like, I have confidence between, Will Campbell, his mind, his want to, his work ethic, like, his intangibles, which are off the charts, plus Josh McDaniels, like,
Right.
They can manage it. I mean, I don't know how Andrew feels about this, but like, I would not be opposed to a double dip on the first 2 picks. Like I'm not. Yeah. I mean, like I picked Ursary at 38. Now I don't think he's going to get there. I mean, he might. But also, like, Nick Cattles, when we were doing my podcast, I thought he had a good idea on, like a Donovan Jackson, who at Ohio State, when Simmons went out, they're winning a national championship with him moving from guard to tackle. And like that, if you could find a guy who has guard tackle versatility, and then you freaking figure it out later in the long term. But yeah, I would not mind a double dip with their first 2 picks.
How about another name? The local. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew.
Oh, damn right, Taylor. It sounded like this is your podcast or anything.
Zip it, dude.
I pitched the double dip, and this was even trade back up to the mid-20s for Josh Connerly. Like, look, if Will Campbell does go to guard, it's not as big of a problem, because then you have Connerly in there, and there's an issue of reps, and there's an issue of a guy who probably needs to put on a little bit weight and get a little bit stronger, but as a natural pass protector, which you like, to have in your left tackle. So I do like that idea. It was shot down by my colleague, Doug Hyde. But look, we persist. We move on. Mike Giardi also did not like it. Thankfully, he's not here anymore.
What does Mike Giardi like?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Not much.
Right. I have to ask you this, though, because we did TV, I want to say 2 months ago, and it was around when Will Campbell's arms came out to be whatever they are, right? 33 inches, and you were out. So what happened in the last 2 months?
So the biggest thing was that the combine measurements were BS. Like 32 and 5A scared the crap out of me.
So 33 is fine by you.
Yes. And even like I'm going with, he's actually, and this is what I've reported before the combine, 32 and 7/8. So I am okay with it just because of who he is and how he moves. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm being my most professional here, passing on all the jokes as 2 of you hold up. This
That was aimed at Kadlick, I think.
The adult.
Didn't anybody have eyes or a tape measure prior to a month ago or 2 months ago? Like all year long, it was like, well, Pats are going to tank for their tackle, tank for the tackle, get Campbell. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's got these teeny little arms. You can't draft the guy. Like, can't people see his shoulders? Like this is what he's always been. Why is it such a revelation? It is. I don't understand it.
I think it's one, a lot of people have just been going off the 2 sacks allowed thing, which I understand. Like 2 sacks allowed is 2 sacks allowed. When you watch the tape, it's like the quality of the losses for me. Watching Armand Membu, I was kind of waiting for that time where he was going to overset or where he puts himself in a bad position and has one of those ugly losses that really kind of like jump scare at you. He didn't really have those. Had more help. He's on the right side. Didn't face the same caliber of competition. But Will Campbell, like when he faced the guy where it's like, oh, the SEC is where you face all the NFL competition. Well, let's talk about it. Against Dallas Turner, against Jared Verse, against Kyle Kennard, against Landon Jackson, against the guys who were going to get drafted. That's where all of his losses came. The really bad ones where you're like, damn, okay. Like, it's not just the arms. It's when he like loses and he overshoots. Unlike Membu, he's big enough that he can kind of make up for it and get in the way. Campbell can't really do that. And I think that's why the discourse has changed, because now it's not just the stats, which like the guy allowed 2 sacks. I don't really need to dive into the tape. But when he's a top 5 pick option, then that's where I was like, I'm just not comfortable with it, because when you look at the tape, he loses in ways you would not expect a premier tackle to lose. My 2 cents.
Greg,
Take
the
that.
prosecution rests if you have any rebuttal.
Take
'Cause
that,
I'm
guys.
with Taylor. We had a Membu corner at our draft event last Thursday, and it was me and Mike Giardi. I guess Taylor left, which is cool. But it's,
I had dinner reservations. I'm sorry.
Okay, there was food there. It's fine. Your girlfriend came. Clearly could have taken her. But no, look, the point is, again, whether it's sacks versus pressures or how you lose, and he's often very much a kind of a two-hand puncher. Like you get to him first. It's not unlike when you saw Joe Tooney in the Super Bowl, which is a dramatic example. But just to get the point across here, in the whatever amount of time we have, like that's what I see here. Again, I think Will Campbell will be a good functional NFL player, but I just feel like the left tackle position might not be solved at number 4.
I mean, I don't disagree with anything that you guys have said, and there's certainly concerning film. Like I said, like the Arkansas Landon Jackson film to me was the most concerning, from Will Campbell. But I just think, especially with McDaniels here, like I think he'll end up being fine, at least for the first year. But I'm just not a Membu guy. I don't think he looks very smart on film. I mean, I think he's just, like I said earlier before you got on, Andrew, if you just needed a right tackle, then Membu's your guy. But if you're drafting him and being like, we're going to try him at left tackle, I didn't find many in the NFL that think that's possible, because they just don't think he's all that bright in the football IQ.
Yeah, let's throw up Andrew here. The Campbell again seems like it's the pick, and seems
I'm
like
going to duck out, but thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep. Greg.
Watch, he's going to turn into Callahan in 2 seconds. 3, 2, 1, gone. No, still there. Yeah, there he is. Last time it worked perfectly. Let's throw in Andrew's
Greg,
top.
you look different.
Let's throw in Andrew's top 5 at 4. And I said again, you can put any names you want here. Carter's your guy. You've got Membu ahead of Campbell. You've got Simmons in here too, as well. So 3 tackles, you're fine if they get one. How many of these guys would you actually be okay with here?
I mean, all of them. It's my list. I mean, like,
meaning, like, would you like you'd be like, oh my god, like if they end up with any of these people at their first pick here, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Simmons, I'm gonna have a lot more questions from Mike Vrabel at 8:45 or whenever we talk to him, right? Like, there's an injury risk there involved. There's not as much tape. Only played at Ohio State for less than a year and a half, and some football character concerns. But look, this first round, given the desperation they have at left tackle and the few prospects that are available that could really plug and play there for years, yeah, he's on my list. So it's really a pipe dream there at 1 with Abdul Carter. Membu, as I've established, would be my guy, and I would just bet on the athletic traits translating to the left side. Jalen Walker, I feel better as a long-term fit, even if he, as Mike Reese eloquently put the other day on the radio, he's a Will Campbell of defense. Like, you want to talk about a tweener, short arms, high character guy, that's Jalen Walker, but then I have Will Campbell at 4. So, yeah, fine with any of them.
So, is there reason to believe that, this Abdul Carter pipe dream is still alive and well? There seems to be a lot of rumblings with Jacksonville moving up to 2. Is that for Hunter? Is that for Ashton Genty? Are they trying to throw everybody off? Then does Hunter fall and then it turns into like, where are you with that? And is there any chance they also move up for, are the Patriots on the horn right now calling up Cleveland?
I don't know. Look, I'm not going to say no. And I've said repeatedly, like, Will Campbell will be the pick. I wrote it today. I say that with like 95% confidence, right? The Jacksonville thing initially had me going, oh, they want to do the splashy thing right at 5 at Genty. And then you hear more about, oh, they want to move up. So initially I thought their 34-year-old GM, James Gladstone, was doing the smart thing of like selling teams to come up to 5. Otherwise, we're going to take Genty. All the teams that want to come up, we're going to get your guy unless you make a move and give us extra picks. Now I think they might be doing the stupid thing, as much as I like Travis Hunter, because the Cleveland Browns are going to squeeze you for everything you've got and more. And then you're going to have to take out a loan to give them even more in whatever trade, as we say goodbye to Doug. I don't know what to expect from Jacksonville.
Sorry,
I just think they've gotten into the liquor cabinet a little early on a Thursday, and whatever happens, just happens.
Guys,
I kept thinking that John was going to come up with something. Where do you think Jalen Walker's role is in the NFL? Because I like him. I don't know how he sees the field on early downs.
I think it's still on the edge, Taylor, but it's obviously got to be system dependent. And I think when you look at the prototypes historically in a Mike Vrabel defense in Tennessee, he's still a little bit light and a little small. But I think he adds a little bit of weight, particularly in his upper body. There's more there full time. The versatility he would unlock, though, also from a schematic standpoint, I think does help, because you also saw they ran a lot of sim pressures there. Like, this was, at times a high blitzing defense, sometimes not. And that's where you work with the talent you have. I look at Jalen Walker, if you want to reinforce the culture, great, boom, that's a guy who can do it. You want to add to your pass rush early on in a rotation, great. It's Harold Landry and Anthony Jennings in early downs. Let him learn the ropes. It's just a really, really good, safe pick. But also, I understand if teams go, he doesn't really fit what we want to do. And that's why you see him perhaps as high as 4, though I don't think it'll happen, and maybe as late as 9, 10, 11.
Yeah. And it's tough because it depends on how, I think, comfortable the DC is being flexible. Some defensive coordinators are like, nope, I want my ends to be my ends. I want my tackles to be my tackles. And I don't want to mess around with where everyone is. It makes my job harder. Some guys are like, no, I kind of like being able to move guys around and give the offense something they have to think about. And Jalen Walker, like, the off-ball stuff was awesome. Won the Butkus Award, obviously, was impressive enough. But you could also see times where he was literally standing still because his processing isn't there, or like he's kind of flying one way, and which is understandable. It was his first year playing the spot. But if he grows into it, then the role is, I actually watched Hightower because I was thinking it. I'm like, I don't want to say this unless I actually go back and watch Hightower as a pass rusher. And it's a lot of the same thing where I thought of the Vrabel quote when I asked, like, a lot of the sim pressures, the linebackers, like, do you like to send those guys? He's like, it's not about the blitzer. It's about who it actually is and what they do well. And Walker, just like Jamie Collins, like Hightower, if you get them on running backs, it's a complete mismatch. And the quarterback knows he's only going to have like a second or two to throw. So I wonder if Terrell Williams is that kind of DC, because we don't know yet. He's never really been the architect of his own full defense before. So is he going to say, you know what, Jalen, I like the idea of being able to use you as this kind of guy that gives the offense headaches? Or is he like, you know what, Michael Williams is just an inside-outside guy. That's simpler for me. More physical upside. I kind of side with him. I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I think, too, Terrell Williams is a reason to believe, right? Like, if there's a defensive line coach that's going to maximize his skill set, he's got to be near the top of your list, the way the guys like Vrabel and Dan Campbell, 2 of the top 10 coaches in the NFL, have talked about him. So there is some development still needed there. Again, is really just a 1-year starter at Georgia. But from everything you hear, you trust that whatever that kid's got, he's going to get the maximum that he has out of himself with proper coaching. And those are the guys you want to bet on, right? The negative way would be to say, oh, he's a safe pick. There's not a lot of high ceiling here. No, I look at those guys as whatever that ceiling is, they're going to get there. Those are the guys you win with. Those are the guys you rebuild with. Those are the guys you build a culture with.
I wouldn't call this necessarily breaking news, but a bit of an update from NFL insider Jay Glazer a few minutes ago on X. And let me read it in full. Jaguars and Browns trade looks like it could go down, and talks are happening, but nothing done till it's done, obviously. So far from definitive, but starting to kind of move forward into.
Said Andrew, Gladstone's hitting that bottle tonight down there.
Can we hit pause? Because look, I am not going to poo-poo people who
don't have pause.
I don't, but I am so sick of draft reporting. And I just said this to Doug before I hopped on. This could happen. That might occur. This probably won't, but keep an eye on that. I don't have enough time in the day for all the hypotheticals that are being thrown out there, which also don't really tell you anything. Of course, anything can happen. That's why we watch. That's the draft. That's football. That's also life. Okay? I don't need coulda, woulda, shoulda. Maybe percentages. Tell me what actual interest there is. What is going to happen? The trades. And if you have to wait to send that tweet, then just wait. In the meantime, we're still in the same place we were before Jay Glazer sent that tweet. All due respect, broken more news than I ever will. Okay, Jay Glazer. But I'm in the same place I was before he sent that as I am now. This could happen. Great.
The first calories.
Someone sounds like they've watched about 75 hours too much film right now and has reached the end of their rope. Yes, you're right. That stuff's
the first news break of the Browns listening to calls. Nothing has really changed since then, but I feel like it's had 5-10.
Well, you know what though?
Maybe the Jaguars being involved.
If you're gonna analyze why that tweet is sent is because he's close to having it but doesn't have it, but wants to be the first to be close to have it. So when it does come out somewhere else, he'll be like, as I reported 9 minutes ago, it was close and here it is. So I do feel that it probably is inching closer to the goal line and there's something substantive there as opposed to the coulda, shoulda, woulda, and it didn't. And, then you have that safety net of, well, I did say could, but anything is possible. That kind of gives you an out. But I do wonder if we are inching a little closer to something happening. And if that were to happen, we're assuming that this is a Travis Hunter thing and doesn't change the Patriots standing at all, right?
No, correct. And look, the other thing could be the Browns are trying to squeeze somebody else that they're taking calls from, right? The Giants want to come up from 3. Hey, this new GM who you don't know what he's going to do is getting really close to us. Tell Jay Glazer. And then they have to up their offer to come up to number 2, which if they do, should be a haul. I mean, this should be a quarterback type of haul, given what we've all seen and watched and studied and reported about Travis Hunter. This is one of the best players to ever play in college football and his all-pro potential at receiver or cornerback. You cannot say that about any other person on planet Earth, okay? So, yeah, I do think it could happen. The credibility of Jake Glazer, just too many tweets of like, oh, the Steelers, might be open to bring back. Cool. Every team makes calls. Every team takes calls. Well, I get calls. All right. Yeah. That's fine.
Let me give you another coulda, woulda, shoulda, Andrew, because I know you did.
Yes, Mike.
You posted a mock draft today, your final one. You moved back. Is that something you think within the next 25 minutes, as we sit here, 30 minutes, whatever the Patriots pick, like, are they still of the mindset they could move back? Are they stuck at 4? Like, and here's the mock trade you sent us, but I know you actually did it in your written piece too. I'll let you tease it out a little, but where are you as far as moving back versus sticking at 4 right now?
Yeah, so this was like 10 rumors ago, right? Again, is what the Jaguars were going to do. And before it was
10 Jay Glazer tweets ago.
And yeah, and look, I say this, mostly exasperated, but partly kidding. The fact of the matter is that the Jaguars want to take an offensive player. Okay, so what that says is basically Ashton Jeanty, maybe Ted McMillan, maybe who knows. But if that's the case, teams like the Bears, teams like the Raiders, who have interest in Ashton Jeanty, have been connected to him so far, you have to leap Jacksonville at 5. So who's there at 4? Of course, the New England Patriots. I think the only way the Patriots would do that is if they are assured that they could still get Will Campbell. So you get someone on the phone at 4. Hey, this is what we're coming up for. Great. Number 5 will be Jalen Walker, whomever the Jaguars pivot to. And then you go, we'll get him at 6. So that's why I put together this trade, because it also works out perfectly when you look at the modern trade value charts. Shout out to Rich Hill, currently at Pat's Pulpit, of how teams actually look at these picks. This is not Jimmy Johnson from 30 years ago. All due respect to the OG. But the point is, this math works out. I think it works out for this draft from the prospect fit. And is it likely? No. But at the time of publishing, Mike, it made some sense.
How low would you be willing to go? Because I think one of the nightmare scenarios here are, and I've seen a couple of mocks recently that are putting 3 tackles inside the top 7 with the top 3 that are going to go where they're going to go, plus Jeanty, and that's your 7. So all of a sudden, if you trade anywhere beyond that, before it would have felt safe going to 8, 9, 10, 11, even 12, Chicago being rumored as a team that might be looking to move up to make a splash as well, up to 12, you might fall to there and not get your tackle. Is that a fail if that happens, or could you live with, how low could you go and still be okay, Andrew, in a trade down scenario?
So,
because you might get a quality player, you just might not get that tackle, and if you're set on getting it, you're getting a little cute.
Yeah, you are getting cute, and you're inducing a lot of risk, right? So my answer to you would be 7, because if the team that you trade with is coming up for, let's say, Jeanty, let's keep it simple, and this is all hypothetical, very unlikely, if even possible to happen. Jeanty goes 4. Will Campbell, again, or Membu, Kelvin Banks, whomever, goes 5. The other one goes 6. You're at 7. You at least get one of those 3. I didn't have Kelvin Banks on that list. Josh Simmons was on my list, because then what you're doing is if you go beyond 7 and those tackles do go, you do have a lot of draft capital. Like, you went far back. That's at least a second-round pick, maybe a little bit more. It's not just the pick, your chance to add a player at that spot. That's currency. It's ammo in a trade, which then you go, okay, we have enough in the chamber to move all the way up to 20 or 19. But even then, you're still hoping that Josh Connerly or Josh Simmons or whomever is there, and that's where you can't guarantee it, and you just have to sit and go, all right, we added extra capital, and we got a guy at 7 who wasn't a tackle, but man, we cannot whiff in the first round, and that's why I would still lean towards a tackle at 7, even if they do move back.
Yeah, it's interesting. You think if the Browns did go back in that scenario that was the Glazer trade that made you really upset a minute ago, do you think if they're moving back for a tackle, or they're moving back for Sanders? I haven't asked your Sanders opinion. I've asked everybody else it. I think that this is the weird domino that everybody has assumed has fallen already, not just fallen off the board. And, when the Patriots went from 1 to 4, there was a bit of a vibe that, well, worst case scenario, they get Hunter or Carter because Sanders is going to somebody, before they get there. And now it's not the case anymore. So do you believe he has fallen so far off that he's not even in the conversation for any of the teams picking near the top of the draft? Or is there a world in which somebody just steps in and be like, yeah, I was bullshitting the whole time. It's always been Sanders. I was just trying to see if anybody could, because again, the Browns, to me, this could be a scenario where they've been lying the whole time. I'm taking quarterback, but I don't want to take it at 2. Can I get him at 5? That would be awesome because that's safe. Pats aren't going to take him at 4. Are we missing something here with Sanders? Because I do find his slide to potentially out of the first round to be a little bizarre.
So I got like 2-3 minutes here as a 2-minute warning. To answer your question, I never thought Shedeur Sanders as a prospect was good enough to be in top 3, top 5, top 10, top 15 consideration.
Yeah.
Which to me then is not like, oh, you can talk yourself into, a quarterback within that range. This is a guy who's well outside of that range in what we all considered not to be a great draft at the top. So
sure, but like Penix and Nix went where they went last year, and a lot of people had them kind of in the same ballpark. People had Sanders late first, early second is safe
right, but
for
Sanders
that.
In this draft, John, would still be the 8th or 9th, or in last year's draft would be the 8th or 9th quarterback. That's the way that I see it. Yeah. And when you hear Sanders talked about, which again, I really enjoyed watching those Colorado games. There's stuff that translates to league. I think he has to be in a highly structured offense and could work in certain systems. And I had him going 21 to Pittsburgh. But when you start with the scouting report is toughness, really important quality, okay? But if I'm asking about someone I want to go on a date with, okay, maybe marry long-term, as you would a quarterback if you're an NFL franchise, and the first thing I hear is toughness. I'm like, well, are they fun? Like, are they a good person? You need higher things in that. For
how long are their arms?
And I don't. Yes, very, very important to me. You should see my wife. She reaches for everything from the couch in her house and just hands it to me. Shedeur Sanders is not good enough as a prospect to me to ever be in that conversation. I think it was early in the draft process, and that stuck because things that are said first tend to stick. And we've come a long way now where I just don't think it's going to happen. I think they take Jackson Dart. I think they get him at 24 in a trade with the Vikings.
Interesting. Andrew, we're going to let you go, even though it's a little bit short of your time. So we do appreciate you jumping on here. You can obviously catch all of Andrew's written work over at the Boston Herald as he's going to be covering this and a little bit of Celtics throughout, but all of his draft coverage. He may pop on with us again Saturday. He said he wasn't doing anything, so I may hit you up for that as well. But also, you can catch all of his football takes on the Pats Interference podcast, which you can find on the CLNS Media Network. And I'm sure you're going to have some thoughts there that you're going to share with us exclusively on that pod. So make sure if you don't already subscribe to it that you do. It's one of the several terrific podcasts. Don't tell Greg, it might be my favorite. One of the several terrific podcasts on the CLNS Media Network. So make sure you check that out. Shut up, guys. We're here. We're
he's
good.
Jay Glazing right now. That's who you are, John. All right.
There you go. See you.
Thanks, pal. See you guys.
See you, bud. Yep.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right. So people don't leave quick enough. So I try to do the boxes and bang, I'm trying to nail it. Guys, we're an hour and 51 minutes into our live broadcast. Nothing has changed. And here we are. We don't know anything more, but we have not talked about your favorite players and top 5 picks here. So let's get to a little bit of that. Let me get to Taylor's. Let's go to Kadlick's top 5 at 5 to start here. No, I got to remove one. You know what it is? I got to get the others out to put yours in. And
you know what? It's funny though, as you do that, it's funny we're already at an hour 50. Like having the 3 guests, that was good. That made it fly by. It was a nice little, before we start flipping out about who the Patriots take, we get some other perspectives here, and now we really get into the mojo. So
yeah, and what's also cool is that all of those guys, as a source of pride, all do shows for CLNS and all do a really good job and all have different unique perspectives and takes. And you can see all of them. There's not much agreement among that group there, which is great. And they all have their sources and their info and their takes, which is great. So let me see if I can find your thing here.
How's that? There we go. So let's get to that. Here's what you have. And again, some people decided to include Hunter and Carter, and others did not. So this is the top 5, assuming Hunter and Carter go in the top 3 for Mike. So go ahead. You're okay with Campbell, and walk through the rest here. So I couldn't put Hunter and Carter on here. Obviously, I would take those guys here. I mean, no matter what, they fall. The character stuff with Carter, I get the argument there, but ultimately if he's there versus a Will Campbell, who I have number 1 here, I would still take Carter. But this is, again, like you said, assuming they're not there, I've sort of talked myself / seen the tea leaves with Campbell as to it seems like he's the pick. And ultimately, I'm okay with it because as Greg continued to say, it's such a huge position of need with Drake May and setting up this sort of infrastructure around him that he's the best tackle on the board at that point. Even if he's not a tackle, he's going to hopefully pump in to be a solid guard. Now, I know that was some debate with Mike and Tayler has kind of said it here on the show for a while that we don't know he's going to be a great guard like everyone just assumes, but I still ultimately think that sort of double dip there is worth it where, okay, although he can't play tackle, he's going to be a good guard. So I have him at 1. I think it makes the most sense, and I think that that's the highest position of need for the players that will be available.
Well, let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
And Taylor, I'll ask both of you guys. Now, if it's a settle pick, like if everyone has already concluded that if he is a left tackle, he'll be a mid left tackle. And if he's not, he has the potential to be a really good guard. Let's say he's a 10-year starter at left tackle, but is somewhere around the 15th to 20th best tackle in football. Is that good enough to have somebody that is competent? Because again, I think people always, for perspective, the Patriots didn't have the 32nd best left tackle in football last year. They had like the 70th best left tackle. If you talk about every human who plays in the NFL who could have played the position better than the people they had. So moving up even to 32nd overall best starting tackle is an upgrade. If Will Campbell ends up being the worst starting tackle in football but keeps his job, it's an upgrade over what they had last year because they were below replacement level. Let's say he's in the 15 range over the course of his career. A Nate Solder type who the Patriots had before, who held it down for a while, who was fine, not spectacular, not a Pro Bowler. Nobody ever mistook him for, an elite tight end. Even Matt Light was not outstanding. He was good enough.
I think Matt Light is what you want his ceiling to be.
Yeah. So like if you're Light or Solder or one of those guys who's pretty good but not great, is that okay?
I'm okay with that. Honestly, I look at it, right, and I think that yeah, it stinks that you took that guy at 4 and he ends up only being the 15th. But at the end of the day, you're still building up a quality. I used the word already, but like an infrastructure around your premier player and quarterback in Drake May. And yes, you still need to do more, but he can survive with the 15th best left tackle because of everything else he can do, with everything else the offense can do, the way they can scheme it up, the way the rest of the offensive line can kind of hopefully fill in around him, where they've added Morgan Moses, and you go from there. So yeah, I'd be okay with him being the 15th best tackle. Because John, you mentioned it, they weren't at 32 last year. They were at like there were teams with like two left tackles that were better than the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
not only that, guards. Joe Tooney was 10
10
times better left tackle than whoever the Patriots put out a left tackle, and then, he got eaten up a little bit in the Super Bowl, but like he held the fort, and he's a guard. You had a zillion people who could play that position better than what they had. They didn't have anybody even close to competitives there. Taylor, could you live with it?
I could live with it. And that's just because of where we're at. Like, again, quarterback.
Exactly. You have to take that into consideration for sure.
And
it's almost like quarterback, right? You have to get the elite guy, you actually have to be bad again. You got to be picking top 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The elite left tackles don't make it to 14, 15, 16. Those are guys who are like, maybe they're good, maybe they're a right tackle. This is a premium position. It's almost like QB. To get that stud, you got to be bad in the right year. They ended up being bad in the right year for a quarterback, but not for the tackle. So you might have to just settle, plug it, and be good elsewhere.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that we don't talk about is like, yes, the one-on-one losses are bad and those things you don't want to see. But even more than that, the left tackle spot, like, I think there was also the twists. Like, the line games were a nightmare last year. It felt like the same thing every single week was killing them. Will Campbell does not get beat on line games very often. I think that's one seemingly small part of it that, like, I don't think I mentioned it a ton. It's partially because, if it is a Membu type, I think he's good enough to handle those as well. And I was more comparing, but like that scenario where you get better, you get a plus run blocker, which I don't think Fedarian Lowe was. I don't think they've had a plus run blocker outside of Trent Brown at that spot. So that's another area where it's like, yes. And Brandon Thorne actually mentioned yesterday, The Athletic did an awesome show. They had Derek, they had Robert Mays, Brandon Thorne. and they had Brugler on. And one of the things that Brandon Thorne mentioned was if you want him at left tackle, what you ask of him is going to be huge, right? If you're going to be an offense where Drake May's holding the ball for almost 3 seconds, then yeah, like it's going to make Will Campbell look really bad. But I think we know, like Greg mentioned, he's not going to put him on an island if he knows he's just going to get killed against an elite rusher. You know they're going to want to be a run-first team. Josh McDaniels, he gets away from the run sometimes, but it is still a very important part of that offense. And also, we know with Brady and with all his quarterbacks, he doesn't like them holding onto the ball for very long. So you're hoping that all of those things together help kind of minimize the amount of stress put on Will Campbell. And even more than that, if you, like you guys mentioned, if you get a good left tackle that's not going to be early in the draft, you have to develop them, right? Maybe you get somebody at the back end of the first round or the second, you have them behind the scenes for a year or two, and they slide into the role. Will Campbell gives you youth and he gives you time, because how many guys are you going to sign off the street that are going to be able to play even as well as Will Campbell? And how many other guys in this draft can play as well as Will Campbell and don't come with major red flags? Not many. So again, it's just at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of options because unlike quarterback, left tackle's not a position you can kick down the road because you don't like your option. With quarterback, it's like you can suck so bad you end up being able to get one. With left tackle, you're just hurting everybody who lines up in your backfield and, by proxy, the rest of your offense. So you got to pull the trigger because the reality is you just do not have better options.
On the rest of this top 5, as we round it out here, I'll just quickly go through the other 4 because I know we did the Campbell. Yep. Jalen Walker, I still think if you sit there, he's a player. And Mike talked about it a lot. I just think he fits. I think talking about the Will Campbell of the defense. And I'm sitting here, and I talked about this. I forget whether it was on our show, Taylor, or at another point, where does the character really matter as much as good players? And when Giardi asked Vrabel about it last week, he kind of scoffed and was like, well, we need good football players first. And Jalen Walker is just a good football player. I would take him, but he's also a great guy in the locker room, and it seems like that's going to be the case. So I'm for it. And then the other 3, I look at Ted McMillan as another position in need. You need a wide receiver. I think he's the second best wide receiver behind Travis Hunter in this class. And if you can't trade back and you're not a fan of the tackle in Will Campbell, you're not a fan of taking a defender because you have holes on offense, just take Ted McMillan and ride with it. I know it's early. That's another guy who I would like to see them potentially trade back and then target. Sounds like there's some more smoke on him going in the top 10, so we'll see where they land there. Then the other one, Mason Graham, is just another guy along the defensive line like Jalen Carter. Feels like one of the top sort of fringe blue chippers in the class that I would be okay with them taking. And then number 5, I don't want them to do it, but he was the only guy I had left on the board, Genty, because he is one of the best players in the class. We did it on Monday. I still don't think I can convince myself of them to take a running back. I understand you pair him with a quarterback and the offense is a little bit better off than putting it a top tier running back on a team without a QB, because then you got to, work around that way. But if the other 4 aren't available for some reason and you got to take a guy and they fall with Ashton Genty, I would certainly rather him over, completely reaching for somebody else in this class.
How good would Genty have to be to feel good about the pick? Again, benefit of hindsight. We just did this exercise with Campbell. If Genty is Saquon or for a career, is that, can you say, all right, it wasn't
what you win for games? That's my thing, because right. if he's not directly impacting winning and losing games, then I can't.
But that's this year.
I don't really care if he's LaDainian Tomlinson on a 4-win team. That just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
one thing I don't like how the assumption with Genty is like he's going to be running behind a bad offensive line for the rest of his life, when we know that like Drake's back there too. It's not like they draft Genty and it's like, oh well, the offense is fixed. Like that's one thing. It feels kind of, and I understand in this class because you don't think there's a left tackle. That's my thing. If you think that Will Campbell is the only quality left tackle you can get, pull the trigger. I completely understand.
Yeah. Tennessee Titans officially on the clock. It has begun. And we all assume that this is not going to be a very dramatic situation here. The drama really begins at 2, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. A little bit of information coming out here. Another Diana Rossini tweet. Broncos trying to move into the top 10. They've been rumored to really want to get in on the running back situation, which seemingly getting somewhere in the top 10, if not top 5 or 6 is going to take you out of the Genty conversation. So that would presumably be for a different running back if the Broncos are in fact trying to do that. I can't see this being a dance partner for the Patriots coming up from 20-4. This is a long, long way to fall. So I'm not really sure what would happen. The NFL draft is officially underway. As we said, the Patriots are sitting here with the 4th overall pick. We have not yet gotten Taylor's list, and we're going to get Taylor's 5 at 5 right here. Taylor's top 5. He didn't want to do 5. He really wanted 4. But boy, did he put Genty high on this list. Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, I stand by it. I want a blue chip. Like, I think if you can get an all-pro player, you get an all-pro. And that's my thing. It's like, I think Ashton Genty is an all-pro. I don't know if anybody else on this list necessarily is, at least at the position that you're initially drafting them at. That's why I have Ashton Genty at the top one. But like half of these would have asterisks, because if the Patriots don't like the left tackles, then I would bump Will Campbell up, because I do think he is their best option. Third, again, I just went with blue chips. I understand, like what Greg was saying, they've already invested in Milton Williams and Christian Barmore. The reality is you can't really have enough defensive tackles. And it's not like this team is necessarily like overwhelmed with all this talent, because Christian Barmore, we don't know what his long-term outlook's going to be. And I just think, plus you could still play more 5-man fronts. I think there's a way, if you did have 3 very good defensive tackles, you could get them all on the field. Armand Membu, like I said, that's kind of an asterisk too, because if he can't play on the left side, he's not on the list at all, because I think you need a functional left tackle this season. But I also think that he's a better athlete, and I think he's I like his not style of play necessarily, but I just like him at tackle a lot better, because I don't think he has the glaring deficiencies. And then I put Michael Williams over Jalen Walker, just because I would prefer Jalen Walker more after a trade down. Like, he's projected to go to the Panthers after the 10. So I feel like, and not that Michael Williams is, someone who's projected to go much earlier, but I do think that Michael Williams has more upside. I think he's someone who can be an every down player for you sooner. And also, he's a young guy, plenty of room to grow, and also was someone who was very highly respected in that Georgia program. Jalen Walker, like, I could take any of these guys out, and Walker would probably be in that 5th spot. But yeah, that's my list. I just want them to get some blue chip talent. And if they don't, then of course, Will Campbell is, the top option.
I know. And I'm going to defer to you guys in terms of like the players for sure, because of the time you've spent on it. I believe, what Brugler had said on the clip that we played earlier in the show. Drafting for need, or drafting somebody you're not even sure is going to be good with a pick as high as 4 does feel like malpractice. So again, that's why if you were certain Genty is a top 3 running back in the NFL right now, whether it impacts winning or not, talent is talent is talent. And you're better off getting something great than something mid. If you're going to be assured that the thing that you're getting is not going to move the needle for you, like might it fill a need? Yeah, but it doesn't get you any closer to winning. I don't know. It's a shame the Patriots didn't find a way to address tackle in free agency or through a trade in some way, because then you could just sit here and.
So it sounds like the Jags are going to do it.
Really?
Mary Kay Cabot, Cleveland.com.
As plugged in as it gets.
She just tweeted a minute ago, Browns in heated talks to trade down from 2 with Jaguars. When they're on the clock soon, I believe this will happen.
Look at that. Tell Callahan.
So
see if he's upset about that.
So they're going to go get Travis Hunter, putting the Browns at 5. And like you said, John, is it Shador, or do they take a Ashton Genty at 5?
Or,
Chubb replacement?
Yeah.
Or the next,
Honestly,
or Membu.
Or tackle.
Yeah.
So what's their depth chart look like right now?
Man, why would Cleveland
I think DeJuan Jones
the best player in the class? I want to see the haul, but I don't understand why the Browns don't just take Travis Hunter. He's so good at football. It's like
they might. DeJuan Jones is their left tackle right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And Jack Conklin's their right tackle. I think in an ideal world,
I think it's tackle.
At least one tackle to replace one of those guys, because DeJuan should not be on the left, and Conklin is always hurt. So if it's a Patriots kind of thing where they're like, yeah, I'd rather take a haul and firm up in the trenches than get an elite skill player, even if you don't agree. I mean, it's, again, tackle is one of those spots where I understand reaching. I have no other position other than quarterback to a degree, but I mean, Maybe it is tactical.
Pick is in. Titans take Cam Ward. No surprises there. Now things get spicy and interesting with reports that it's happening. That this pick, the first shakeup early, happening here with the Browns trading down and out. So here's what we can say.
The Schefter just tweeted, so the trade's gonna be in, I assume. Okay, I have the return. They have made the trade. The Browns are trading the 2nd overall pick, a 4th, and a 6th for number 5, their Jacksonville's 2nd round pick, a 4th round pick, and their 2026 1st round pick.
Oh,
so next year's first is in the deal.
That's a really good haul. I would.
Oh my God, that's what the Patriots could have had.
I mean, could they have?
Yep. So it's next year's first.
If they had gotten the pick, yeah, damn. That's
John,
crazy.
I can go like this. Hold on, give me 1 second. I can put the trade on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's not it.
Crazy.
I'm an idiot. Don't do that.
Wow.
So Jacksonville is going to get Travis Hunter. Unless it's Shadur Sanders. Oh wait, no, mind. It's Jacksonville. I'm losing my mind. Sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I said
We'll
that.
edit that out. Don't worry. This isn't live.
No, I don't know why I was thinking that would
He
make
hates
sense.
Trevor Lawrence.
Next
there's your
year's
trade.
first. Oh my goodness gracious. I'll take that off the screen again. Number 2 overall, a 4th round pick, a 6th round pick to the Jags. Jags trade 5, a 2nd rounder. Oh my God.
Damn,
Is that
that's
a lot?
nice, man. That's a real nice haul.
Wow.
Oh.
So the Jags get Hunter. Carter's still going to go 3. Patriots are going to still sit there with Campbell.
That was our trade.
Yeah, that's what the Patriots could have got if they said, or again, they could have just taken the best player in the draft, which
Pats haven't picked yet. I'm mad. This was the lead. I have no dog in this fight in this draft. I'm actually okay with so many different scenarios, and I can accept it and be like, that's what it was. They got their quarterback. This is the best they could do it for. It's not a great draft, so be it. But now the coulda, shoulda, woulda, jeez.
And Schefter makes a good point that the Browns are now equipped to come back in and get a quarterback if they want as well.
They are indeed.
Well played. They did a great job.
Damn.
That's great.
James
And so
Gladstone, 34, nuts on the table. Go get this guy. That's good for him. I think that's cool. So that sets up the Patriots for parameters for another trade down. Like if teams want to keep coming up.
For what though?
Only for Genti.
Yeah.
Unless someone loves Armand Membu, but that's the only way because there's not enough value anywhere else.
Well, the Jaguars are on the clock, and again, here it is: 536, 126, and a 2026 first to the Browns for number 2. Here we are. The assumption is Travis Hunter, but we don't know.
Imagine it wasn't.
We don't know. We are assuming that is what's happening here. So we'll wait on that. But Cleveland is officially, the Jaguars are officially on the clock here with pick number 2. Again, this doesn't affect the Patriots necessarily here because the order of players is expected to be the same.
Here's a fun thought that's just
go ahead. I like it.
Running through my head. So okay, Hunter goes 2. The Giants are sitting there at 3,
and Cleveland trades back in for 3. They do the Houston.
Either that or they know. New York now knows that Cleveland is equipped to come up and get a quarterback. So instead of taking Carter and waiting on the quarterback, because now Cleveland
They panic and take Sanders.
Shedeur, and they just take their quarterback, which means Abdul Carter falls to number 4.
I put my money where my mouth is on the Sanders thing. I'll tell you that much. I did. So I'm still hanging on. I've always believed that this is a thing that's going to happen because of panic, because, quarterbacks are quarterbacks. We will see here, but this is super interesting. They're super interesting to have a trade like that. How much moving up like this with that kind of capital for a non-quarterback is something, huh?
Yeah.
They
Yeah, it
must
is.
have a plan for him, because that's a lot, man. I don't know. I know Browns fans, some are not happy. They just wanted to take Travis
Take
Hunter.
Travis and call it. Yeah. How do you not? He's the best player in the draft. Jacksonville gives up a lot, but it's in theory 2 positions in 1 player if you play it right.
The reports were that they know they have a lot of holes, and they do. Like the offensive line, like their rosters is old. And I know like Denzel Ward, they were saying or Greg Newsome could be traded. There was another defensive lineman, but there's a lot that they need to add to the team, and they're in a Patriots-esque position where it's like, all right, is one player worth potentially getting several more and having a future first? And with them not having a quarterback that they know is their guy too, that future first is huge.
The pick is in.
Yep.
It sure is.
It is. And is it done?
Yep.
I don't have it yet.
Hunter.
I know we allow for spoilers, so once I see it, it's Travis Hunter. Yep,
Yeah,
they
Jeff
took him.
tweeted it. It's not our fault the NFL wants to make this 3 hours when it can be an hour.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to see how they announce him. Wide receiver or DB or both. He said he wanted to be announced as both, but
I think it's going to be corner/receiver or receiver/corner.
I
think corner/receiver.
I want to hear what Goodell says and how he says it.
Jordan Schultz said trades are just starting.
Look at that. Pinky.
Yeah.
Pinky.
The Patriots need to get on the horn and make this shit happen. Trade down.
No, seriously, I'm aggressively team trade down.
Yeah.
That's look, my dream scenario. We didn't get into dreams and nightmares. My nightmare scenario is trading down but missing out on all your tackles. My dream is trading down in 1 and getting your tackle, but also being able to trade back up. Either the double dip, which I like, and I'm okay. For a guy who bangs the drum incessantly for receivers, which I have for years and years and years and years, I'm totally fine not taking a receiver here, particularly if you're not in love. I would be more than happy with the double dip in the O-line. Live with what you got with receivers and look at this at a 2 to 3 year build. I think you got to start in the trenches and then work your way out. No question about it. I'm fine with that. So yeah, you want value here. I've never been in favor of the Patriots trading up out of 4.
No, didn't make any sense.
That made no sense to me because you just have too many holes to fill. So you got to do it. But we are close. We're close. We're heading. This is the most, again, this is dramatic because it happened and it's a big, big, big trade. If you are in Jacksonville or Cleveland, I'm sure you have some feelings. It changes nothing for the Patriots. Pick 3 here is the linchpin pick. This is what it all comes down to here with the Giants on the clock here at number 3. And this is where the intrigue is.
This is where it is.
Predictions, you think it's Carter and that's it?
I do. I think it's just Carter. Again, unless they get nervous and they do really take a quarterback, which honestly would not shock me at this rate.
Jordan Schultz, who was one of the first to put out the Hunter trade being official, wrote just now, a minute ago, trades are just starting.
Mm-hmm.
So things might get spicy here. Hold on to your butts.
So do it. Make the trade.
Do something.
Trade back. Do something. It's so funny. The years of Patriots picks and Bill always trading back, and everyone's like, "Oh, just take a player, stop trading back." And now all we want them to do is just trade back and get some value for the pick.
Because they were good then. They didn't need 1 billion players.
All right, I'm listening in to see how they call him. Travis. We have a trade. Yes, we do.
Schefter also putting out there, Jags are expected to play Hunter on offense and defense.
They call them a wide receiver and defensive back from Colorado. And yeah.
They will onboard him by giving him a heavy dose of the wide receiver position while still playing him at his more natural position on defense. 2 positions for pick number 2. So let me ask you guys, if he was, I've always wondered here, if he were 2 players, where does Travis Hunter, the receiver, get drafted, and where does Travis Hunter, the D-back, get drafted in this draft?
I think the D-back gets drafted in the mid-10s, like the other corners. I think he could go in the
top 10, bottom of the top 10. Yep.
Yeah, I could see that. But the receiver, I think he'd be the first off the board. I could see him going top 5.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I agree, and that's why he's so valuable, because he can do both at such a high level. I know it's obvious, and we've kind of beat it over the head, but now it's time to do it. Like, he is incredible, and he's a good locker room guy, which doesn't go. He's dancing on stage now. He's having fun. Like that. That's a dude who there's the stink around Dion and Shedeur sometimes. Travis doesn't have it. He's not the cocky guy. He's the confident, hardworking.
Yeah,
I would have loved him as a Patriot.
This is a guy who's already thinking about his second contract as the first ever 2-way All-Pro. Yeah. He's seeing Ohtani money right now in his dreams. So again, good for him. Let me ask you, because we're going to run out of the hypothetical scenarios here fast when the Giants do finally make their pick. Should the Giants shock the world and go Sanders here, guys? And no, no. That's not the. And Carter is on the table. Do you want the Patriots to just take him and take the elite prospect, who may be, in Mike Charity's words, an a-hole? Or do you want to see them maximize the fact that a bunch of other teams are in love with him and see if you get a haul? What do you want to do? If Carter's in your lap at 4, what do you want?
I would pull a Browns.
Pull a Browns. Give me everything, right?
Yeah, okay, maybe you're right.
That's a cool position to be in. And again, I don't know. Hurry up and draft the bus tackle. Yeah, everyone's so bummed.
I just want it to happen at this point. Like, let's just go through the motions.
No, I don't want it to happen because I want chaos. Chaos is fun. That's what makes drafts so fun. But
I don't know. I'm kind of scared of the chaos, but I'm open to it. I'm not closed.
Man, that week 18 game, it creeps up on you. You think about Joe and Gerard. Gerard Mayo is cracking up right now.
But what did you want them to do? They play. I'm not trying to freaking
I'm not saying you could do it.
But I'm just I feel like it should be acknowledged that if Gerard did a lot of things wrong,
the Giants pick is in, but we don't have any reports just yet.
I'm being told it's Carter, but I want to see it somewhere else here.
Yep.
It is Abdul Carter. And that means
Will Campbell the clock?
The Patriots are on the clock. The Patriots. All right. Make a trade. Do something fun.
Oh, careful. I thought that was a statement.
No.
I got to get a Will Campbell picture ready to tweet. Trade.
Silence.
Yep.
I don't know why I feel so anxious right now.
I am too, because again, you want more, right? Look, it makes perfect sense. It's an underwhelming pick no matter who you take if you draft right now. Okay. In the 3-player draft, the 3 players went. So one didn't fall to you. No one finds it splashy, even if it's Membu or Campbell or Graham. God, kill me. That's not great. So you want something, right? And the 2 things that'll get your heart rate going is a trade or Genty at this point. Whether or not those things help you, that's what's going to give you some level of excitement. Sticking and picking and taking Campbell, which is what everybody predicts they're going to do, is what it is.
Patriots should be on the phone with the Bears to jump a team for Genty.
If that's what they want.
Yeah, of course.
But the thing is here now, where the Genty thing changes a little is Jacksonville supposedly was the one that wanted to get the offensive player as a splash. So you had to get up to 5 or 4 to get him. Now that Jacksonville's moved up, you don't see Cleveland taking Genty at 5. Now trading up that high isn't necessarily what you have to or need to do, which means Genty's probably at play at 6 or 7, where people normally thought he would go, unless, of course, the Raiders are set on taking him at 6, and then it's a done deal, and you're not going to be able to get that. Let's see. We've got some information here. Cleveland Browns are taking calls for teams interested in the number 5 pick. I'm told they're open to moving down again. This is a brilliant. This is what the Patriots could have done. Amassed a war chest in a shitty draft from that number 1 or 2 position.
Top of the draft.
All right, but if a team's gonna call
shitty top of the draft, you're right. There's great value on day 2, and then you could get future picks and more day 2 picks or lower in the first. And this is, again, this is what you pissed away. Not the chance at the one player, the chance at the many, the chance at the assets, the chance to fill a lot of holes all at once. So you want to get mad at something, you can get mad at the Campbell pick because it's not sexy, or you could get mad that they could have done a lot more with this. But it is what it is.
Yep.
And, guys, I don't think they can trade it. So we will see. I love watching Tayler right now.
I mean, it's gonna be Will Campbell. It's just gonna be Will Campbell.
I'm not even mad. I just want it to happen. Let's just accept the reality and look forward to the rest of the draft where we can actually have some fun.
Yeah.
I got my post and my tweets ready to go.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Amit just tweeted from the account, more disappointment here at the draft party. Abdul Carter to the Giants.
Oh, God.
It's going to happen.
I want more. I just, again, I keep saying it, but I want fireworks. I don't want it to just be Campbell because we've kind of expected that. But if Cleveland's at 5 getting calls about trading back, why can't the Patriots be doing the same thing? Why can't they be finding out about teams who want to move up, and then you move up over that number 5 team, and then you get the haul that they've been looking for? I don't know.
Poor Mike. Coping. You guys are really, really going through something right now.
I didn't feel this way last year. I was very excited.
Well, last year was automatic.
We knew, right?
Yeah,
didn't
last
we know
year was
like
pretty
a couple
automatic.
hours before. Yeah.
Last year was automatic, and it was like, okay, we're getting a quarterback and a really damn good one. This year, it's like there's a lot of question marks in a worse draft. But man, they're taking their time.
They got him. It's Campbell.
It is? Okay.
Yep.
Who's that from? Not the
Jordan Schultz.
Jordan Schultz.
Yeah, okay.
Officially official. All right. So the Patriots have their fingers crossed franchise left tackle. How do we feel?
I don't know. I feel. That's all I feel. Like, I'm good with it. It's fine. It works. It's something that you kind of had to do as you sit here, but I just wish there was more. I don't even want to call it aggressiveness to trade back because we don't know what calls are being, made and things like that. But with what Cleveland got to trade back, and if Cleveland trades back here again, and there was more out there, instead they take this tweener tackle guard that we think and hope will work out. I'm okay with it because of how the board fell. But when it came down to the way, Jacksonville moved up and made a move, and it kind of felt like there was a chance that this top 10 was going to get crazy, and they didn't. It's okay. It works, and it fills a need, and hopefully down the line, hopefully it works out. That's all you can say is, they made the pick and it works.
And looking at the bright side of this, because we all know what the negatives are, right? Yes, he would be a massive physical outlier as a left tackle. and he may need to move into guard. And you would ideally not like to pick a guard with this kind of pick. But one, we always have to start with the character when we talk about Will Campbell and the effect he's going to have on that room. They have Morgan Moses, right? He's the guy who seems like he's going to be the captain, the leader of that ship, the one who brings everybody on and shows them the way. That's a pretty huge benefit for Will Campbell, who's already a natural leader in his own right, gets to learn how to do it at the pro level from a guy like Morgan Moses, who was taken under his wing by Trent Williams when they were together earlier in his career in Washington. So at least you have that guy who's going to bring the intensity, really like a Logan Mankins type presence in that offensive line room, where I know we were talking to Moose after Mike Vrabel's press conference. He was telling me a story about when the Patriots played Detroit in Thanksgiving, like long hair Tom Brady season, 2010. And how it got to the point where they had Ndamukong Suh the Lions, like they were super dirty and everything. He said at one point, it literally just turned into a brawl where the linemen were like punching each other and just trying to sneak jabs in and making it a fight. And they go over to the sideline and they're like laughing about it. So you hope that Will Campbell can bring that level of nastiness and everything to the offensive line room, wherever he is. And the reality, as we've discussed, is that you don't have any better left tackle options, right? If you trade for somebody or sign for somebody, that guy's going to be your 1 or 2 year stopgap, right? And then if you want to draft somebody, well, I'm sorry, friend, there aren't a lot of other tackles in this class that really fit the bill as potential year one starters. So this is, I think a culture changer in the offensive line room, and something that's going to be huge for Drake May and the rest of this unit. Also a much better run blocker at left tackle than they've had in the past. Of course, you know, the reality is also that it's going to be tough for him and he's going to need some scheme help, which isn't ideal for a 4th overall pick.
No fireworks. Look, this is where we got it. Yep, Will Campbell. What are we laughing at?
This is the most...
I'm just laughing that we go quiet. It's like, okay, it's fine.
Look, we're fine. That's the thing. Is like you can't get excited. It's not. I'm okay. Like I didn't love anything here. The trade down. The trade down was just acknowledging that like I'm fine with whatever they take. I would just rather take it lower. And if they're gonna and if they traded back and got a little more value and got Campbell at 7, I'd feel fine. That's the point. You know, it's just at 4. It feels like wasted opportunity more because you were at 4 and you could have been somewhere else and could have really maximized value, either taking a different player or trading for something. So it's just the energy is down because there was so much potential for this to be a little bit more for the Patriots here. You suffered through a season like we all suffered through and you fans suffered through. You want to see a bigger payout than, I don't know, maybe he can play tackle, but if not, maybe he can play guard. We will see. We will see.
I'm also probably,
but I understand
again, if it works out, and not that he stinks at tackle, but John, you said top 15, top 20 tackle, but they think, oh, let's try this guy out at left guard and see what happens. And at that point, they have another top 15 caliber left tackle that they could then go get, and they move Campbell inside. I'm still okay with using that at number 4. Like that's
like an Anthony Belton, somebody big who could be that left tackle next to him, kind of make up for that size.
Yeah.
Like,
well, even Greg talking and Greg mocking it today with the double dip. Like, what if they go get an Ursery and they just say Campbell's our guard at pick number 4, and we're just beefing up the offensive line and we're starting from the trenches and we don't care what the value is at 4. We liked him good enough as an offensive lineman, and we're going to go right there.
Browns took Mason Graham. That's kind of surprising.
Interesting.
I did not expect that.
That is surprising. Just to let everybody else know, just to give a quick update on what we're doing here, because soon Mike Vrabel's going to address the media. We believe it was going to be soon after they made the 4th pick. So once that happens, Taylor and Mike are going to have to scurry off and listen to that and be part of that.
Are we going to stream that live here?
We are not, because it's technically not cool. We are shooting it. You can watch it live, but we can't put it up here for reasons. Man, how about this? We'll dip in for a little bit, but I can't keep that thing.
I just
going
wasn't sure. I didn't know if we were doing it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there he is with his goofy suit, Will Campbell. He's back. He's hugging people. I think that he's wearing shoulder pads
to make the broad shoulders look less.
I don't hate it.
What's the vibe? I haven't checked out the chat. What are we thinking as far? What's the chat think about Will Campbell? Are we happy? Are we
How's
sad?
that? How's that comment?
Yeah, not great. Come on, James. Come on. You just gotta hope it works.
Let me ask you this. This is an interesting way to put it in here. Let's say Campbell is at tackle and not terrible at it. Let's rate this offensive line today. Go through it.
So I think the initial line is going to be left to right: Will Campbell, Layden Robinson, Garrett Bradbury, Mike Nwenu, Morgan Moses. I like that run blocking group. Like that's a kind of group where you can legitimately run similar concepts to either side. If you want to be downhill, you can pull Nwenu, you can pull Layden Robinson. Both Morgan Moses and Will Campbell are very good at those down blocks and displacing the initial defensive front. So I really like what this means for the ground game. Pass protection is still going to be a question mark, though, on the left side. The right side, I think Morgan Moses and Mike Nwenu, that's going to be a solid pairing. You don't want Garrett Bradbury on an island, but, you're not going to see that too often. But then it's going to be, Will Campbell and Layden Robinson in the NFL. We don't know what they necessarily look like at their best. Like, Layden Robinson came a long way, got much better, but new scheme, new coaching staff. Let's see how he adapts. And then Will Campbell, of course, he already had the question marks coming into the league. He has worked with Duke Manyweather. That's something I'm going to ask him whenever we get on the press conference, is how he's helped him maybe elevate his game and improve to prepare for the NFL. But the left side is still, it's going to be TBD in terms of pass protection, but run blocking, I am going to be very excited to watch them. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to get to see that we're not going to get to see that till like pretty deep into the summer. So that kind of sucks. You're muted, Mikey.
Oh, I'm muted. We won't see that till, like you said, Tayler, camp, if not like the first preseason game, because there's no running involved. That's why if they took Genty, it would have been, they're showing the draft party live on ESPN too.
Oh, he's crying
as well.
Can I listen? I'm going to listen.
Who's crying? Campbell?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm being infiltrated by hiccuping children. It's just just here hiccuping and giggling on the other side. You guys listen. We'll have some video as well with the pick from the
So is this what are we thinking? We trading back in? Are they gonna sit and not do nothing?
We don't know. I want to stay up until at least 7 or so until we get a notification that because I think it is interesting. Raiders are on the clock at 6. Yeah.
Will Campbell was like emotional on the stage. I think he got asked about the Patriots. He said, "I'm gonna fight." His exact quote was, I'm gonna fight and die to protect them with everything I've got."
All right.
Whew. That's what you want to hear, baby. I know it's not everything. This is a man who talks the talk and walks the walk. So that's cool.
Yep. I think people are going to.
I love Will Campbell, the person, man. Like, I understand there's questions.
I love this goofy bastard. I really do.
I've been saying that even every time I push back against him. I'm like, but I cannot emphasize enough. I love the player. I will not.
I think people are going to like him. I think that quote, him getting emotional, you get a sense of look. So again, this is spin zone. I don't do this. I'm not like, no, they did it. Let me find a way to like it. I was always fine with Campbell. I really was. I just, like I said, was hoping they could maximize value and get whichever tackle they thought was best. Couple picks later, but I was fine with it. If they couldn't get Hunter or Carter to fall to them, I didn't even really necessarily want him. That's fine. But that stuff matters. Like the character stuff that they mentioned before matters. The liking football stuff, I think matters. I do think it is, as much as you don't want to draft a guy you're not even certain they can play the position you drafted them for as a thing that you don't love. And I think Vrabel's coming to the podium, guys, here.
Fantastic.
We'll listen for a second, then we got to dip out.
Want to obviously just on behalf of the organization, and thank everybody from our team that went into this process to get us here. We're gonna make a lot more picks and be excited about it and be convicted about it. Obviously, starting with Will, just the entire process of going through and going all the way back into just right around the Senior Bowl and with me getting hired here, learning Elliott and his team, some of the people that I brought in. I want to thank them all. I want to thank the people that have been here for a long time, Smith and Nancy Meyer, that have helped us through all this. I don't know how much more I'll talk to you here this weekend, but I want to thank them personally just for their hard work. And this is an exciting time. 3 weeks that we've had with our players.
So we will dip out again. There are restrictions here, and this is, we can't really stream it. I just wanted to pop in because Vrabel did go up there. I know Tayler and Mike are going to want to pop in there. So if you guys want to jump out, listen to Vrabel because you want to do some writing and do some other stuff, that's fine. Just alerting everybody here, we are going to jump back in here to this draft. Should the Patriots trade back in, we're going to jump back in and immediately analyze whatever's happening and react to that pick. If not, at the end of this round, at the end of the full round, we will jump back and do a kind of global report and figure out what's going on here. This is only the beginning. We've been going 2.5 hours plus. Insane amount of coverage yet to come from Tayler and Mike, two of the hardest working guys in the biz here. So you want to follow everything that they do for real. You want to check out some of our draft profiles. Several of them are up on the site, including what Tayler thought of Campbell. If you want to look at some of that film, that is available to you.
I wrote it right now.
And he wrote it. He's on the site. You can check out Taylor's write-up. He's been doing extensive work on this stuff. And again, we have an insane amount of stuff coming up, not only later tonight, but throughout the day tomorrow. Follow us all on Twitter. Follow Patriots CLNS. Follow the YouTube channel. Subscribe. And then turn on your notifications. You'll be notified when we do go live. We're going to wrap it here, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will be back later tonight. That is a promise. Until then, it's Campbell. Let's learn to love it, guys. Okay, everybody.
Let's go.
Love it. Let's love it. Let's love it. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Later. Bye.
You guys.